Anyway, should we go with the podcast? Oh no, you need to go outside. You're going to be noisy, aren't you? Love you, darling. Thank you. Bye. Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I love you.
He's not talking to me. He's talking to his cat.
I mean, I love you too. Handsome.
Cool. Oh, thank you. My worth isn't necessarily bound to my aesthetics, but I'm glad you think
your
so.
worth is your worth to me is bound in the aesthetics. If you weren't pretty, we wouldn't be doing this.
Oh. Welcome to Magic the Flavouring, the Magic the Gathering podcast, where we talk about all things Magic, flavour design, and lore. I'm your host, Andy Mann.
Hello, this is Nathan Cancel.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year.
Can I say that? Well, this is going to release like the 30th, I think, or something.
As long as it's still in the first month. Oh, as long as we're still in this year, it's the new year, right? Or otherwise it's the new.
No, is it New Year until it gets to mid-year and then it's the old year?
It's the thing about how long do you leave your Christmas decorations up for. And obviously most people don't know what 12th night is, but that is supposed to be it. But we've still got our bunting and our fairy lights up because fuck it. Why should you only be festive for like 15 days of the year?
Because otherwise it's not special.
But it is special if you live it every day. What for me, Christmas isn't a special time of year because I'm already joyous. I'm already full of love for my fellow man. Or at least I tell myself that every day because I work in hospitality.
Today we're talking about Aetherdrift, baby. I almost called it Kaladesh Aetherdrift, which is not correct in many aspects.
In several ways, yeah. You are outdated, sir.
But it is definitely Aetherdrift.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of cool.
Well, the idea is not, even though it starts and it finishes on the same plane, it is not a single plane setting.
So it is a little bit like War of the Spark in that respect.
I guess it's even less. I guess because the characters of War of the Spark were more diverse, right? Because they kind of technically
it was set on Amonkhet for some of it.
True, the story especially. I guess the set itself, we didn't see any cards from. Was Samut's Planeswalker? I'm looking it up right now. Was Samut's Planeswalker one her running through Ravnica?
I think they all were in Ravnica in some degree.
Whereas this very much is three different settings. I mean, we probably should know this, but did they do a planes from each, or a planes from each of the planes and a mountain from each of the planes?
Yes.
Cool, fantastic.
What in this set?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do one from the perspective of the drivers as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Anyway, so we're talking about Aetherdrift today. This is our story episode. We're going to talk a little bit about it at the end of this episode, so stay tuned for like a pretty big update on where Magic the Flavouring is going to go in terms of its episode structure. But this might be the only episode, to kind of bury the lead, in which we talk specifically about this set.
Yeah.
We will talk about it in a grander sense, but we'll get there. So, Aetherdrift, story review. Arsenault Rivera is back.
Mm-hmm. No complaints.
No complaints at all. And like, Arsenault Rivera, I'm going to shorten it to K. Can I just say K? Do we all know?
Can we call it Car because it works for the set and it's KAR?
Or can I just say Rivera?
Yeah, you can say Rivera.
I think Rivera's probably better. So Rivera is really active on social medias as well, and you can absolutely tell. I know we say this about a lot of writers, but you can absolutely tell that they're in love with Magic the Gathering. Mm-hmm. And I think
it's funny because the fans aren't.
What, in love with Magic the Gathering?
Yeah, the players don't like it.
Yeah, we don't like it. The writers fucking do. And you can tell just how excited they were, just with their various social medias, like on Bluesky or whatever, how excited they were to write this set. And I think we were chatting, we haven't actually spoken much about the story before now, but we were chatting just a little bit before the record.
Andy came at me at work.
At your work,
and took me home.
Yeah.
Oh.
Make sure you got home okay.
Thanks.
And we were talking about how, this story, whilst, look, elephant in the room, it's definitely another hat story. Instead of a hat, it's a driver's license.
Zoom!
Yeah,
we
exactly.
don't drive.
Magic do cars.
Yeah.
Right, so fair enough. So we understand that. However, and this is probably giving away my gambit before we even get into it, I think this works way better than, say, Outlaws or Karlov Manor. Because they've got the right writer in, because she's a fun, colloquial writer that is more character-driven than anything else. And this story is about how characters have grown. So we don't have to do this big... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so
also, she's a much brighter writer. She's not doing some dour war scene, which I'm sure they could do.
It's actually... Everything's fairly positive. Even the bad bits don't actually get into the... It's not very...
They do
grim.
fun really well.
Yeah.
And this set's just I think it's fucking fun, man.
I think hit the nail on the head of the story is character driven. Like the backdrop is the race. The race is happening in the back.
Yeah.
For the set, the race is really important, and that's where all of the focus from the mechanics and the artworks and everything is. It's all on the different teams and what they're bringing to the table. Mm-hmm. From a story point of view, we don't actually really care about the race, and we do, but I think to also bury the lead. I don't enjoy the race parts as much as I enjoy the non-race parts of this story.
Mm.
And also, there's something to be said for how the stories for Outlaws of Thunder Junction and Murders of Cardiff Manor weren't bad. Like, we both enjoyed them.
Yes.
But something about this, and I think as we talk through it, we'll probably find why and what it was. But there was something about this that felt slightly more genuine, and it felt more heartfelt. It didn't feel like, oh, I've got to write a story for this set that we were doing just for the fun of it. It's like, no, this is actually driving. Driving the story of Magic quite far forwards in multiple directions. We're seeing a plane that we've never really seen before get a load more like Muruganda is presented in a really cool way, not just from the story itself, but also from the Planeswalker guide and every little bit that we get from it, because we haven't really seen it as a focus. Amonkhet probably gets more story, or as much story as it did in its original set.
Yeah, it's wild. And also, we're not going to necessarily look at the cards too much. We get so much exposition in those cards as well. So you're right, massively expanded.
And then I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of Avishkar, even before it was Avishkar. Like, there was something about Kaladesh. I'm going to say it because this was what it was called when it was how I think of it. It just kind of sat in that middle ground with like Fiora and Ravnica, and I was like, it's a semi modern, but not modern. Is it like a semi what Renaissance? What's like the what kind of era am I thinking? Like 1800s?
Oh yeah, well yeah, it's Renaissance Italy.
But obviously it had the Industrial Revolution, had ether being everywhere, and all that filigree kind of element, and it was kind of like steampunk, but shiny steampunk, which is very cool. But it wasn't very different to something we've already seen before. And I'm not a big fan of politics, right? And I found that when there was a lot of political driven aspects when I was reading through the Planeswalker guide, and I just rolled my eyes. I'm like, I don't care about the consulate being overthrown for the third time. And it's interesting because that happens within this story, and it's actually really engaging.
See, I'm the opposite. I really love politics in my fantasy media, and this is why I loved Episode 1, Star Wars. Yeah. I fucking love that, trade embargoes. I understand why there's a problem with Episode 1, don't fucking at me.
Yeah, we're not going to do the accents, but Jesus Christ.
Well, there's all that as well. So, like, I actually, for all the reasons that you were maybe not so fast, I was really enjoying it. Unless the Planeswalkers, we're not going to talk too much about the Planeswalkers guide as much as what it touched on in the story. But yeah, I would go back and read it because Kaladesh has changed to Avishkar. The real world implications being because of the translation of Kaladesh into like English is just, it's not great. Like the actual meaning behind the words and what they would mean if we were saying it in English and vice versa. It's politically charged in a way that I think Magic doesn't want to deal with, and was called out in the original time it was brought out.
It's easier to avoid it than it is to make excuses.
But it's also
down.
good that they wove it into the story, and also that the characters in the story don't just disregard.
Yeah, there is a boomer, I'm going to say a boomer, but there is a boomer in the story who's essentially like, I like the old ways. And that's really relatable because we live in a world where that happens.
Yeah.
That is a natural part of humanity, is to buck the new for the old, especially when it didn't offend you, so why should you change your traditions when they make up your history and who you are as a person?
And it's very clever because it's essentially Wizards of the Coast, or at least the narrative team and the writers kind of absolutely getting out like ahead of any sort of backlash, because as soon as someone goes, PC libtards at Watsy, and they go, you're the boomer in the story, aren't you? It's like,
exactly,
fuck you.
perfect.
So I really loved it.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about. Please go and read the Planeswalkers guide. I'm going to do a quick story synopsis, which we all know, guys, is not going to be quick. And then I think last time we did a story review, we kind of chatted about it as we went, which is fun.
I think, would you like to still do that this
time? Well, let's see how it actually goes.
Also, notably, 6 episodes, not 5 episodes, 2 side stories, which we won't be touching on the side stories. I've read both. I'd recommend reading both because it's a real cool insight to what's happening on Amonkhet now that we're past the hours, as it were, like now the Bolas has been
and the Phyrexian invasion as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Though that gets touched on slightly less, I think for them the Phyrexian invasion was just an afterthought over. Yeah, our entire plane was on the verge of death from some megalomaniacal fucking dragon.
Who we thought was our god.
Who then not only did we think it was our god emperor, but also completely bastardized and ruined our gods that live within. Yeah, the whole thing, and then also Muruganda. You don't get a lot of it within the main story. And you get a whole... Basically, this is what happens when druids get into cars. Which sounds silly, but it's actually quite fun. So yeah, we're not going to touch on those 2, but there were 6, not 5 stories, and I think it was the exact right amount. 5 would have felt too short.
Yeah.
It really needed the 6th episode.
I'm missing out some details here. We can fill in as we go. And if you've already read them, as you should have done, good for you. You shouldn't be getting the whole story from me. What are you doing? So if you've seen Mad Max Fury Road, you don't need to listen to the rest of this podcast.
That does call into question, right? Before we even start, there's a Mad Max plane.
Yeah.
What happened when Phyrexia went there and they guzzle oil for their cars?
Oh, no, they probably went there and went, nope.
Yeah, it's like, these guys are eating us. No.
Well, there's a card that was released today called Gas Guzzler, which is a vampire.
It's a vampire. It's like,
I bet he was awesome during the Phyrexian invasion.
He was loving life. Woo! Feed me, daddy. That's not making it.
Always goes there. Anyway. Open on, Kaladesh, now renamed Avishkar, heralding in the new government and an end to the consulate, and it is celebrating the Durapur Grand Prix, a relatively new tradition born out of the amateur street racing that happened in the intervening years between the fall of the consulate and now. And it is the second year of the row of the official tournament. And this year, as last year, the competitors are made up of teams from across the multiverse. The prize this year, however, is something special, and it is the Aether Spark, which is an artificial, Planeswalker Spark.
Oh, well, actually, yeah, if we're going to say when we open on the creation of the Aether
Very
Spark.
true, by a Avishkarian artificer.
Yes.
Who everyone said was crazy.
Yeah, and then, so during the Phyrexian invasion, they see the portal open above, and they're like, this is my chance, and in grand Izzet fashion, obviously we're not in Ravnica, but exploded themselves. And then in the process of making it, people aren't sure whether they reached through this portal into the Blind Eternities and nabbed a spark, because that then brings in question of, are there just sparks flying around the Blind Eternities? Is that what happens during the rupture and everything?
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows? Or did they have a latent spark that naturally...
I like that idea.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then not everyone can make an Aether Spark.
No.
And I think that makes it more special.
It also is annoying that they released the artwork for the Aether Spark before the story, because people were saying, it's like a little zombified hand holding onto this thing.
We will get there.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Because that was a theory going around. I think we even mentioned it in our last episode. So, the Aether Spark is the prize. And then we have the teams. Let's do a rundown of the teams. So, as I said, it's teams from across the multiverse, but not everyone is as it seems.
How would they split 10 teams up in
I
Magic?
know.
That'd be crazy. What are they going to do? Like 2 colours per... Oh... It's guilt.
You know what they did on Ravnica?
Yeah, right, and they do with every other set now. Yeah, fantastic. We're doing it again.
We have the Avishkari Aether Rangers. I actually like all the names as well. So each team has 2 captains, and it also it's kind of made up of, it's not just like one racer from each team. It's almost like each team has like a cadre or like a kind of...
Yeah, they've got a lead and then a bunch of subordinate
like
kind
support
of
cars and then like a refuel car.
Yeah.
I think it's a really cool idea because it's like a big convoy of like...
That's it, it's convoys.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
So you have the Avishkari Aether Rangers, and the captains of that team are Pia Nilar, Chandra's mother, and hero of the Indigo Revolution, which was a revolution on Kaladesh.
Indigo Revolution.
I mean, that just taps into our Pokemon 1990.
Oh, God, that's exactly why I like it.
Yeah,
Fuck
exactly.
you.
And co-captain Spitfire. We will return to them in just a second. We have the Kylum Cloudspire Racers, who are the reigning champions from last year, with team captains Colodon, who looks fucking sick in his artwork, and Chandra Nalar, shock horror, going against her home team.
On the Akira bike.
It's all Akira. It's like 90s Tron. I know Tron was the 80s, and then the other one was 2000s. I know it literally missed the 90s, but I think Tron had a very 90s feel about it.
Yeah, it's not Tron Legacy. It's definitely the pre-Tron.
And it's again, we was talking before this episode about how they've brought Kylum back, but in a completely different fashion that doesn't actually change anything that we know about Kylum before. Clever.
Yes.
We have the Amonkhet Champions, with team leaders a de-sparked Basri Ket, and I can't remember, what's the Leonin champion's name?
Oh,
Rakar, Karar?
Something similar to that, yeah.
I'm not going to mention them again.
Okay, I find we don't have to worry then. Go look it up.
But there is a Leonin, there are now Leonins on Amonkhet, which is pretty wild, to be honest with you. We then have the Guidelight Voyagers, which are from an unknown plane, and they're a bunch of like rotund spherical robots. They're proper spacey. Like they've got yellow like plating, and it almost looks like they should have numbers. If you've seen the Tau from Warhammer 40k, they're like
it's somewhere between that and Wally.
It's very Wally. Yes. Or like Claptrap from Borderlands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They've all got big eyes like HAL 3000.
They're not made to look sleek and efficient. They look like they do exactly what they need. They almost look like they rattle and beep and bop.
Yeah, they're proper robots.
Yeah.
They're not like, sort of cyborgs or whatever. We then have, so they've got one champion whose name I forget. The Medicant. So they have a hive mind called the Medicant Corps. You have the Speed Demons from Duskmorn, who are led by Winter, of course. They love doing this thing recently where they have one character that back-to-backs between sets.
Yeah, and then looks completely radically different between them.
A little bit.
He's
He's very spooky looking now. He looks like a ghost. All of their cars are like hot rod Mustangs, and they've got like spooky.
Yeah, they're all fueled by spirits.
And demons.
The Speed Demon, which is a very annoyingly cool turn of phrase. I'm like, of course, he's called the Speed Demon.
I mean, actually works. I mean, in a set which is basically them going, look, we've had hats, and now we're doing full anachronisms of like, look, Magic has cars, and we're not just calling them something else. They're cars.
There's nothing as egregious as Chainsaw in this set that we've seen so far. So I'm like, you know what, this is okay.
But they do have engines and cars and shit.
Yeah.
And look, before we go on, we're just gonna have to get used to that. We're through the looking glass now.
Are we talking to people or ourselves?
Everyone, all right? So we just have to get used to the fact that Magic the Gathering is doing a car racing set. And if you don't like it, they're only here for one set. And I know I sound like someone who should have been telling me this about the cowboy hats, but I cared about the cowboy hats, and actually I think the cars
No. We were right about the hats. Yeah. It was 2 planes worth of hats. It was 2 sets worth of hats. And if there's a second set of cars, I'm going to be a little bit annoyed.
Well, we'll get into it. You have the Goblin Rocketeers, again from an unknown origin plane. The actual goblins themselves that make up the team, they're not from Fiora.
We didn't get Warhammer 40k orcs.
No.
These are essentially Warhammer 40k
what they are.
orcs.
That's exactly what they are. They've got cobbled together machines that are basically bazookas and rockets.
And they scream to the boost god,
yeah.
I think it is, or something like that.
It's really someone plays fucking Warhammer and has made these goblins. But their team leader is Doretti of Ferora, who's the smartest goblin on the multiverse. So, other than the ones maybe in Marcadia.
Well, we haven't seen Marcadia. We're probably never going to see Marcadia. I reckon they were so smart they blew themselves up through science.
Well, there we are. That is the
They
goblin
found a way
way
to invert that pyramid and squished themselves.
So he's their boss. I mean, there is a team captain as well, a co-team captain called Redshift. We have the Alacarian, is it Alacrian? The Alacrian quick beasts from Alacria or Alacaria? There's no.
I like Alacrian. I think it's.
I'm adding in a name.
It's too close to Alara.
I think it's Alacrian because we're adding in an A.
Yeah.
And that's Caradora and her mount. That's also a team captain, Lagorin. So it's that is a team that specifically they don't use mechanized vehicles. They ride giant powered up beasts that are like fed supercharged foods that make them zip. I think they're fueled by ether, right?
Yeah. So it's there's exactly. It's essentially if you've seen Arcane, it's kind of like Shimmer, where it just goes. Boop, 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 boop.
Yeah. So they're running around on their animals. We have the Speed Brood, which are an insectile race that. We know where the plane is, like in terms of by we, I mean like the people in Magic World know what plane they're from, but no one can pronounce it because it's unpronounceable, which does lead to something I picked up on you before record, which was, how is it that half the species of the multiverse all speak common, and then these guys suddenly speak a language that no one else speaks?
So the only way I could think of it is that, like, in the same way that beasts and sentience works, like, they straddle the line of sentience, so to the point of where, because most insects have a hive mind, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it would be, do they speak within a hive mind? And then because they speak within their own hive minds don't normally communicate with other hive minds. So maybe maybe everyone else in the Magic Multiverse speaks on a similar hive mind linguistically, but then they have their own separate way of talking.
Fair enough. So they're the Speed Brood. They are insect people. Their leader is Atchik.
Yeah, we are definitely. They don't speak like this, so how do they tell us what their names are? And then we just put that into letters?
Exactly.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
And they ride big insects.
Yeah, they grow them. And in fact, one of the legends specifically is, I think the flavor text says that this is her last race before she gestates into her next form and she becomes the next car.
Which is great.
Which is really cool.
Why
they're not mounts instead of vehicles when they're creatures? Don't understand. But that's okay. That's fine. That's a bugbear we're not talking about.
We have the Kill Haulers, again from an unknown plane, but they've set up shop on the coastal areas of Avishkar now. They are majority fish folk, but there are humans that live on their plane, and it's basically pirate plane.
Imagine it's like Ixalan, but actually Pirates of the Caribbean. It's Davy Jones's crew.
Yeah, they're fish people. They're big sharks and shit. And you've got Howler and Kari Zev, another Avishkarian from the previous sets that we've seen. She's with the pirates because she herself is a pirate, and she's
a sky pirate.
But what I love, because they do touch on her in the story slightly. They do have an interview with her because there's like an interviewee character called Vin.
Yeah, Vin's great.
Who's a little homunculi. And they interview Kari Zev, and it's almost like Kari Zev is so anti-establishment that even the renegade weird government that overthrew the other one, she's like, oh, I don't give a shit about these people.
Yeah. I am the true renegade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pierre Nollar's a
So
fucking
what's the current
dick,
trend? No, I'm against that.
Yeah.
All right?
which I love. And finally, we have the End Riders from the plane of Gestal.
Yeah, this is
which,
Mad Max.
This is Mad Max, right?
Yeah.
Whereas the plane is in constant state of Armageddon.
This is just Earth. Give it
another
5 years.
They all ride motorbikes and have like mohawks and shit. It's just Mad Max.
Yeah.
It's just Mad Max.
It's the moment of the story of where I can't remember who is. I think we see it from the point of view of Spitfire, and then she turns around and just sees one of them on the back of their seat juggling chainsaws. I'm like, of course. I think she actually goes, "Where the hell did they even come from? Shh, don't question random chainsaws out of nowhere."
Their leader is someone called Far Fortune. I love the naming.
Fortune
The naming
so
conventions. They
cool.
don't have names as in like Dave or Simon or Carrie or whatever. It's like, what is their sort of essence?
Yeah, it's similar to the names that they gave people on Duskmorn, right? The things that they don't exist anymore, calling someone like Dawn or Hope or something like. These are the group that, because it's so close to home and it's unlikely we're going to go and actually see the plane. I'd have liked to have seen a bit more of it.
I mean, the cards. I mean, it is essentially they've just done. What if the Rakdos didn't do fun but did motorbikes instead?
Yeah, and also if their plane is ending in their overpass, surely they can all just migrate to wherever the fuck is willing to take them, right?
Well, I don't know how.
Is there immigration issues across the multiverse? Probably.
I mean, that's a bit too current.
I guess not. I mean, not for us. We're not America. That's fine.
No, we're English. We have a great relationship with immigration.
That's very true.
See, balanced. We're balanced. Sorry, US. You're going through a thing, aren't we all? So, the first sort of half of this story, and then from basically most of it anyway, we have essentially two narrators. The first one being Spitfire, who I mentioned earlier, who is the alter ego, the Batman of young Sita, who is the daughter of a former consul who is called Mohar.
Mohar, M-O-H-A-R.
Yeah, Mohar. And she is basically rallying against her privileged background, and she is imposing as the master racer to live her dream.
It's somewhere between, as you said, but it's also a little bit like Mulan as well.
A little bit like Mulan. I mean, the story of, if we're just going to really
Mulan meets Batman sounds wicked cool.
That's actually it. I mean, the story of like a royal prince / princess who wants to be one of the common folk because they understand their own privilege.
It's the moment that Jasmine in Aladdin goes out into the streets, but instead she's a badass who's been doing it for a fair while. At this point
she's established. This isn't something new. The racing circuit is established on Avishkar, and she is definitely a part of it.
And her persona is very different. They make a very specific point of saying this at some points, and I'm going to touch on it because we've introduced her and I really like her character, and it's going to get lost all of the other shit that's going to happen later. That she has a very specific persona that's very standoffish, that's very gruff, and she is not like this at all.
She's Batman.
And it's exactly. And it's this very different swing, and she plays both sides of it very well. She's even sympathetic to her father, understanding why he probably thinks what he thinks. She just doesn't obviously agree with it. You know, she still has love for him as well.
This is also a really interesting trope in fantasy racing media. And what I mean is that in every instance of like, okay, we've got this game / film / TV show / comic book, whatever it is, that is based around fantasy racing. And there is a fair few when you think about it. There is always a character which is like the masked driver. So, for example, Speed Racer, you have Racer X.
It's his older brother. Sorry, spoilers. It's his older brother back from the dead.
You should absolutely watch Speed Racer.
No one saw that coming. It is batshit crazy.
Even F-Zero, in F-Zero GX, which is the GameCube game, you have Captain Falcon, goes undercover as a different racer.
Doesn't Wreck-It Ralph, isn't the king? Doesn't he do racing at some point?
Yes,
and then he turns out to actually be an evil bastard.
King.
Wasn't he a
Gumball.
racer guy? Wasn't he a racer character?
King Candy. Yes.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so true.
Even you could even argue to a certain extent in say the pod racing in episode 1. Back to episode 1.
Yeah.
Anakin is masquerading because no one knows he's a fucking Jedi.
True.
All this kind of thing. In every bit of racing media, I watch. There was one series. I mentioned this to you, and I've definitely mentioned it on socials. It was a Japanese-French anime that was only ever recorded in English, so of course it's fucking really popular. It's called Oban Star Racers. It had one series of 20-something episodes, and it got obviously syndicated.
Oh yeah, I've seen this.
Yeah,
yeah. Well, this is this is like that's a throwback. That's nostalgia.
Anyone who's not watched Oban Star Racers,
it's so good.
It's so good.
It was. Hey, should we just do pod racing the series?
It's just F-Zero. It's like okay, and it's actually very similar to this because they go through gates they do.
Yeah,
They're all from different planets, and they've all got their own. You've got a guy who rides a big beetle. You've got a guy who rides a
This
ship.
is essentially, yeah, this is,
It's
they've clearly gone
essentially
back
it.
and gone, shh, no one's seen this in a while, we don't have to worry about the IP crossover.
And they
but we're
absolutely,
stealing it.
absolutely do in that TV show. I haven't seen it for a while, but so I might be misremembering. They definitely do sort of like hidden motives and hidden identities and races. Anyway, all this is to say that Sita being an alter ego isn't like this kind of crazy like, oh, girls just kind of do it for themselves, which is some of the discourse that I've seen. It's like, no, this is a trope that is actually very true and very real. Her motivations are based on her own class and upbringing because she understands Avishkar needs to be for the people, not for the consulate. And her dad, who is also portrayed as being actually quite even-handed and not an evil person.
Yeah, it keeps, even when he loses his temper, she makes a point of saying it doesn't happen very often. He has a very scary temper, which is what he's known for, but he's not like that all the time.
He encouraged her to get decent education, all these things.
Like, he's a compassionate guy.
Yeah.
You can tell he loves his daughter. He's just misguided.
And so actually this character of Caesar is not only rooted in tropes that are kind of like good for the genre, but is also interesting for the story. And to go back to Rivera as a writer, this is why they got them in. Yeah. Because when we go on to Nyssa and Chandra in literally just a second, once I get off this point, she's very good at writing them from a perspective of their relationship and their character growth. But she's also very good, if you look at Rivera's work outside of magic, a lot of their novels, which do actually cover fantasy war, so maybe I was a bit off my point earlier on, the central characters are sort of like slightly younger characters who, I did a bit of research, who kind of find their way through the world in like a very rooted way.
Yeah.
So this is why they brought this writer on.
I think Sita's journey is very grounded, and it's very like, again, the Ether Spark, as much as there are Omen paths, the Ether Spark to offer that opportunity of freedom to other planes at your whim, however it ends up working out, because we still don't know the metaphysics of the Ether Spark. With all things that are super wibbly wobbly, magicy wagicky, they're never going to really pin it down.
No, of course not.
It's going to be hidden on Amoket for years, and then maybe someone will dig it up in the future, who knows. But that idea of freedom and the ability to then take your people wherever they want. I think for the Meta Titan, for the Wobots, they just want to go home. It's just their easy way.
Yeah, they're trying
to
find their home plane.
They're accidentally stranded halfway across the fucking multiverse.
Yeah, they're Voyager, Starship Voyager.
And we assume that they're from the edge of eternities, and they're currently right in the middle of the eternity.
Yeah.
So they just get back to the edge again.
There is also an interesting wrinkle, which isn't in my story notes, which is actually quite a big story beat, that it's all the way through the story, Sita and Spitfire, because she kind of switches her personas and her perceptions. They both dislike Chandra intensely because they sort of see Chandra as being like, oh, Chandra is Avishkar's favourite child because she's like this planeswalker that's super famous across the multiverse. Now that they're aware of the multiverse, but actually, when it came to the Phyrexian invasion, she wasn't there because she was off on, unbeknownst to anyone else,
trying to save every plane.
Yeah, she was on New Phyrexia,
which is actually I think we're going to see it mirrored a lot of like, where were you?
Yeah, exactly. Because these people don't know.
No.
But to her perception, she loses her mother during the Phyrexian invasion. She sees that Chandra is alive, Avishkar's favourite child, but isn't even on the same team as her mother. And that's like a disrespect, which she kind of keys into. It's really fucking layered.
Because it does trigger that thing of like, I don't have my mother to be with, and yet you won't be with yours. How dare you? And then obviously then she's a planeswalker that can fuck off. Why does she need the Ether Spark?
Yeah.
Because she can go wherever she wants. It's like, and it's funny that I think by the end of it, and obviously we'll get there, but we might as well mention it now, that she does question her thought process. She does go back on it and be like, oh, actually, maybe I was too harsh. Maybe I now see... Because obviously through the actions that Chandra goes through, like it gives her a reflection to go, oh no, she has justification. Maybe she wasn't just doing this for herself; she was doing it for someone else. And most of the two POVs we get, both of Chandra and Caesar, have this my motivation that gets questioned. By the end of it, I realise that I'm not the only one who's fighting for something, and I need to change my perspective to be more accepting of other people.
Really good. In a character that could just be seen as, oh, this is the young person. First-person narrator insert, which is sometimes quite annoying. She's actually really fucking good.
I think her biggest betrayal is the fact they called her Spitfire, because even in the artwork, she so the ether drifters are blue-green, which is interesting because obviously Pia Nala's only ever been represented as red, up until her iteration in the Commander set where she's now Teema, and that's I guess she's white-red in the Aftermath one where she's a Thopter, like sex.
Oh, interesting. I can't even recall that
because
card.
at that point they are overthrown and she's in the position of authority, which I guess is the white thing, and now she's not. She's back into being like, hey, I'm just going to make bikes go fast.
Yeah,
but it's kind of annoying that she's called Spitfire because I feel like that creates too much of an analog to Chandra as being a hothead. But the two of them actually have. I mean, Chandra's not even that hot-headed pyromancer that she used to be anymore.
No,
but the two of them obviously have that parallel, and the name kind of synonymizes them, even though they are quite quite different, and I feel like that's the only thing for Caesar is that had it been called something other than Spitfire, it might not have. But that's the persona, right? It's to misdirect and to present this person that isn't blue-green. Her persona is a mono-red character, but she as a person deep down is blue-green.
It's also, I guess it is an okay name trope. I mean, we're getting stuck on this one character. But then this is why we're doing this. The fact that Spitfires being the pinnacle of like World War II British plane engineering, which has a very distinct, I mean, all planes have a distinct, but like the things with Spitfires is that they had a really distinct engine rumble. So it ties into the whole engineness of it.
And the fact that she gets the ability to be able to like shorten down time and have that burst of speed, that Spitfire, like it makes sense.
Yeah, her kind of special in-world power is that there's a suit that Pia creates for her that utilizes ether to give her sort of like bullet time.
Perfect instinct, almost. Yeah. And she makes her car do a triple barrel roll through a fucking explosion. I was like, what? Yeah, that's so cool.
Anyway,
should we actually carry on into the story?
So that's one narrator. So we have Sita. We also have Chandra Nalaar, who is desperate to win the Ether Spark for her now full-on, no euphemisms.
Oh, it's mentioned multiple times.
No hidden behind a fucking cultural thing. She has a girlfriend.
Is it a girlfriend? Because she's an elf?
I think that's is that racist.
Oh, yes, probably.
Damn it. Definitely, Nissa is an absolute girlfriend in this, like, full on send in the story. So, Chandra wants to win the Ether Spark from Nissa, because what Nissa wants more than anything else is to go back to Zendikar.
Because for some reason, Zendikar is really difficult to get to. It might be that the erratic magic...
doesn't have that many omen parts, maybe.
But also, I think because of the erratic nature of the Royal, which I know isn't a thing anymore because the Eldrazi got, but I think that the manner of it's so intense that, yeah, as you say, there might not be natural omen paths to it, or it is a plane when everything can fuck off.
And
it has the power to be able to do so that other planes might. Like, think about Dustmourn actively wants planes to connect to it. So basically there's like a fucking Chutes and Ladders where everything connects to it. Whereas other planes might be like, no, thank you, go away, leave me alone.
Exactly. And who's to say what the kind of distribution is? I don't think it's a set thing.
And it's not like you get there and you go, ID check, yeah, hi, I'm Nissa. Oh yeah, sure, come in. It's just like, nah.
The character growth of both Nissa and Chandra in the first story, and then it is carried on through the others, but I think there's a scene in the first story where it's Nissa and Chandra in bed, and they're talking.
Yeah, shippers rejoice.
Chandra wakes up, and Nissa's reading a book, and then they're talking about why Chandra is in the race to win the Ether Spark, why she joined the Cloudspire Racers, which isn't a home team, and it's because they won the last year's Grand Prix. They're the favourites to win, so she wants to win. And there was a line that really stuck with me, and it's because... And this is, as me and everyone who listens to this podcast more than a fucking half an hour an episode knows, I have not been the biggest fan of Chandra Nalaar as a character.
Yeah. It's because they print fucking 30 copies of her and it becomes very boring.
However, in this instance, I was like, holy shit, I see myself in both characters. And it's the line where Chandra says something along the lines of, I just want to be able to win this for you to go back to Zendikar. And Nissa replies, that's really wonderful. However, when I do finally go back to Zendikar, I want to be Nissa, and Chandra, not Nissa and Chandra. And what Nissa is maybe saying, in maybe actually a bit of a fumbled way, because obviously, Nissa has her kind of like, she's on a different sort of social spectrum, say Chandra.
She always comes across as standoffish.
Yeah, and like some people have argued it could be like sort of like autism coded or whatever. Yeah. I'm not qualified to talk about that, but like that's the kind of what some people have read into it, which is great if you want it. Whereas Chandra is obviously very sort of extrovert. And
almost ADHD.
Well, we're
coding people.
We've seen. I've read the threads. Like some people like really vibe with that kind of thing, and it's the idea that I really vibe with Nissa because I have been in these situations where, when I was a bit younger, all I wanted was a partner in crime. I wanted to be X and Y, right? As in X and Y, we're the pair, we're the couple, we're the team. And actually, as I've gotten older, and maybe a little less extrovert in myself, the more I want to go, I 100% want a partner in crime. But what I want, really, is for me to be completely whole, for them to be completely whole.
And then we bind those two things
and
together.
Also, maybe a little bit defiantly, which is something that my partner says about me as a lot, is I'm a little bit defiant sometimes. And what I read into that is that, of course I want the big box of chocolates, but I want to buy the big box of chocolates.
Yeah.
Whereas what they want to do is to buy me the big box of chocolates because they want me to have it, which is what I see in Chandra, and this is the character growth for Chandra, which is fucking delicious, is that Chandra of maybe like 5 or 6 years ago would have been like, I want this thing for the person I love because I have the ability to do it and I want to do it, and me and I and me and I. And even though it would be like a noble intention, it's like she's doing it because she wants to be the one to do it. Whereas Chandra here listens to what Nissa says about being Chandra, and Nissa, or whatever the other way around, and says, no, you gave me back my plane because you helped me through the Phyrexian invasion and like you brought me back to like Avishkar like you said you would. I want to do that for you so that you can have that experience. And it becomes more about her wanting Nissa to have what Nissa needs, not Chandra wanting to do it because that's what Chandra wants and needs.
Yeah.
And it's a subtle distinction, but it's the difference between being a love bomber and being an active member of a partnership. And it's fucking excellent.
It's funny how we've gone a long way from she likes decidedly male people, right? That we've actually gone round to a really, really wholesome same-sex relationship. And it's almost like they've kind of... I don't know how... Obviously, I don't know how much of this is Wizards going, hey, can you really, really, really make this relationship work? Because we kind of fucked it up in the past.
Yeah.
Or it's just the writers going, we need to do these characters justice. And actually just writing an honest-to-God good relationship.
Yeah.
And it's very nice to see for two characters that are both deeply flawed characteristically and have been in the Magic story for a while, to see them both correct and develop and change those kinds of perspectives together, which was always the most difficult thing. And even at one point, WotC didn't even want that to happen.
Exactly.
It's a real change up, and it's nice to see.
Yeah. So, after some hijinks with teams like giving each other the business, we get to the race proper.
Giving each other the business.
There's an episode, half an episode where they're all just driving to the start of the race, and you're like, okay,
there's the
cool.
pit stop banter as well, right?
Pit stop banter, exactly. The race gets underway, and the course goes through Avishkar to start with, then it goes through Muruganda, then it goes through Amonkhet using...
other way around.
Oh, you're right, you're quite right.
It
goes Amonkhet, Muruganda, using the Omen paths as checkpoints to go through on the different tracks.
Yeah, they stop, so each time they go to a new plane, they stop.
Yeah.
And that's the day done. So they have the race is sectioned. So
It's like the what do you call it? What's the bike one? Tour de France.
Tour de France, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I imagine obviously they'll pace it and people start at different times, but there's always an end destination and then everyone gets a rest and then you restart up. So especially when it comes to things like the convoys, it makes more sense because you go, cool, right, the 3 fucking guys that we lost back in Amonkhet, we'll go and get them, we'll make sure they're okay, we'll bury who we need to bury or whatever, and then we'll
because there are definitely times in the race where they say they've fallen behind, but it's not like they've just lost. It's like, okay, we'll try again tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They've got time to make up, but not now for the next leg.
The race progresses full Mario Kart style. We see Spitfire and Chandra struggle with their own limitations and also aggressions from within and without their team. The Cloud Spire team, for example, just do not have time for Chandra's bullshit, for example. And we actually see that although Spitfire gives it all the mouth and all the chat when she's Spitfire, she is still a relatively young person in a very aggressive death world. People are dying in the race. Like, people are getting killed.
She's absolutely 100% all the time Sita. It's just sometimes she has to pretend to be
She
Spitfire.
puts the goggles on, she's Spitfire, exactly. Which, again, is another lovely layer. After several rounds of the race, it becomes apparent that the speed demons, led by Winter, are cheating somehow, as they are always ending up in the front, despite the fact that they obviously can't race for shit, and they're always at the back at the start with.
Is there a question here?
Yeah.
Of why the hell... how is everyone watching? Because we only ever see 2 parts of the crowd, right?
Yeah,
we see the crowd on Avishkar at the beginning.
Yeah.
Because we get a really cool point of view of one of the guys who builds his platform for cheap, and then it collapses.
Yeah.
Which
Weird
causes,
little flavour beat.
Which then causes all of the problems for the first part of the race, because everyone tries to go off, and then when the platforms collapse, immediately it's like, shit. And that's where Sita does her triple barrel roll instinct thing.
Immediately
like, my god.
I'm eating a mini oak, sorry guys. So immediately she has to use one of her canisters, and you're like, oh dude, what a wasted boost.
Yeah, exactly. But isn't it, so we only ever see the crowd then, and then we see them at the end. We don't really see crowd, I don't think, specifically mentioned in Amonkhet or in Muruganda. Why aren't there like Thopter drones following behind them, recording everything?
But aren't they? Doesn't Vin, the little homunculus host guy, he has a little.
He's commentating, yeah.
But he's got a camera that.
So how does he not see them cheating and then disqualify them?
Well, because I think
is that allowed?
When you look at the Brainswalkers guy. When you do the research in the appendices.
Yeah, sorry, I read that a long time ago, and again, I didn't enjoy reading it.
There's a bit of a throwaway line, but it's kind of like it's a bit of like timey wimey. It's that kind of a line where it says on paper they have to go through all of the checkpoints, and it's as simple as the first one across the line, and those are the only rules.
So do you reckon they have like spatial checks of where they go through the gate and it says like, yeah, cool, this team has gone through the gate.
Yeah.
But then don't the speed demons then skip a bunch of gates?
Yeah, but who's to say what happened?
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Sure.
And also, it's just like...
What happens if you went over it or
Well,
around
also,
it or
it's
whatever?
not like, although they're building cars and shit, the goblins have got a bunch of bombs and fucking stuff.
True.
Like,
I guess it's not them. It's not the speed demons arriving like moments after they've started, and it's like, cool, we skip to the end. It's like, no, they usually only get there just a little bit ahead of everyone.
Like, it's clear that they're cheating, as in they're not doing it to the spirit of the race. But then why have like it's not like F1 where they really like kind of
and spoilers, they don't fucking win. So
yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Like, it's not like they have all the cars be to a certain spec. It's like, well, obviously, like people have different shit going.
Yeah.
So they're clearly cheating, and they always end up in front. And Chandra notices that there is a little caged animal on the hood of Winter's car, a little bit like Max from Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh my god, it absolutely is. This isn't the first time we see it though, because the reason why she hates Winter so much is because in the pit she hears someone going, "Oh, that hurts," or something along that line. That's the voice I think Luke says, because that's the voice they want to give him, and oh god, I fucking hate it. It's fine, we'll get to that. But she already has a hate for Winter because of how he's treating Luke. Like, I think she even bends the cage so he has a little perch so he can sit down. So he's like being so she's automatically auto bonded with Jason Vreska's kid, which is fun.
Yeah, it's a little bit quick, and I think again 6 episodes, and we always say this whenever something happens a little bit fast or the pacing feels off. And this isn't just to be like, oh no, we want to say that all the writers are really good. You have to look at it and go, how much time are they given for the amount of story?
There's so much shit. There's 10 different teams. You've got this other thing from a previous set happening. You're also setting up the next set, and we've also got to do everything within this set justice in a race with 10 teams. Which, as we'll get, we'll talk about a little later.
You have to give us
really
sense of speed. Yeah,
it's so hard. So yeah, of course, some things go by really quickly. It's a race.
Behind the events of the race, Sita's father Mohar is planning to counter the revolution and reinstall his consulate because he sees the old ways as being the best. After meeting some key contacts within his organisation, he is also approached. He is also approached by a hooded figure with a snake-like companion lady, who offer their services for unknown reasons.
Welcome, my least favourite part.
Formulates.
It's my least favourite part of this story.
This B story is
it's so shoed in.
It's very that's exactly what I was going to say. It's so shoed in.
And I hate. We'll get into it. I don't hate it by fact of it being there. There's aspects. It's
just not
of
the
it,
story,
and it's also there's aspects of it that I think, and again we'll talk when we get to the end of it. There are aspects of it that really, really undermine. I think some of them. Again, a B plot works when it's this little thing that happens that's intriguing, not this thing that you go, oh, okay, really.
Well, also, and again, I likened this to Mad Max Fury Road earlier on because Mad Max is like one long car chase, which is what a race is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
every race is just a chase.
Mad Max doesn't really have a B plot. It has things that are happening in the action where the people have different motivations, but the A and the B plot are on the same literal track.
Yeah, you've got. I think the only thing that's different is like, I mean, it's literally I want to get this pregnant woman away, and then maybe we'll go into the promised lands, and then it has a little bit of world around. But realistically, it's a line.
But they're in the same car.
It's a line. It's from B to A and back to B again.
There's no B plot. The B plot is there are multiple people in the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So having this kind of, it's a race, also this other guy meeting Jace, and you're like, oh, fucking what?
And also when you're trying to do a race with 10 different teams, as I said, gets a lot. You get to the next paragraph and you're cool, and then it goes, now let's cut back to Avishkar, where and again the act of Mohar overthrowing and taking advantage of this is perfect, and that makes sense to me. The fact that Jace is the guy who's going to make it happen, it's just a little bit
strange.
It's a little bit strange.
So
obviously they're there because they want to get Luke back, though. There is just
fucking spoilers. They don't say it when they first arrive.
Yeah, but we know Luke's there. We know that they know that Luke's been taken. Also, how fucking stupid is Valgavoth?
Yeah, he's let Luke go.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. He really, really wants the ether spark, but at this point, you're already a plane.
Yeah.
Why do you need to be a planeswalker when you're a plane?
Are you okay? He's a demon. Demons,
num.
Yeah, they're not known for restraint.
Yeah, num. More nums.
There's literal multiple demon cards in Magic that play with the idea of gluttony.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. When the demon on Zendikar like, I can't believe these fucking Eldrazi are trying to take my plane. I'll kill them and then take the plane back for my own. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I get you.
Back to the race, and during the leg on Muruganda, dinosaur riding lizard folk and druids. That's true, isn't it? That's what they are.
The thing is that these are the most colossal. This is Ikoria meets Ixalan, of where it's people riding dinosaurs, but they're the size of buildings.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's like Pyrulia as well. Where everything's huge.
Oh, we better get a Muruganda. I guess this might be a testing the waters. Let's see how people like it. Maybe
there's a lot of planes testing the waters in this set. And druids pulling along a massive car with a giant beast attack the teams, very much like the Tusken Raiders and Phantom Menace.
It's always like there's an 11th team at this point. of the race, because they're all still fighting each other, and then you also have the plane itself unhappy with you being there fighting against
Which is what
you.
you need, right? It's what you want. So they attack the teams. This results in Doretti of the Goblin Rocketeers, Chandra and Pier and Lar of their respective teams, and the Small Beast, who we now know to be Loot. Thank you very much, Nathan, for spoiling that.
Oh, you hadn't mentioned his name yet? Oh, sorry.
No. It's building suspense.
Sorry.
They're all captured and put in a cage. It's funny that it's like those 4 people will get put in a cage together. We also now discover the fact that Loot's got little bit of telepathy going on.
Yes, so we don't read. I guess we don't realise in the pit stop. Sorry for the spoilers. I didn't realise you hadn't said his name yet. I mean, also anyone going into this not knowing Loot's a part of it has not been paying attention to anything.
Yeah.
So we don't know, but I think that the thing that he squeals out in the pit stop in the pit must have been telepathically. And so obviously Chandra isn't looking at him to know this, but again the voice they kind of give him is very kind of like, I'm just a little guy that's really friends with everybody, and I'm like, that's fine, but we don't need a Dobby in magic, you know.
Very true. I'm gonna finish.
And also I think Doretti was already in the cage when they get chucked in.
Other way around.
Oh no, yeah, Doretti gets brought.
Loot's in, Doretti gets thrown in, then Chandra and Pier.
Yeah.
Anyway, eat my egg.
What a threat.
That's good. Good stuff. Their confinement... Oh, no, hang on. Let's go back. They're in the cage. They effectively are forfeiting the race because they know they've been captured. Their confinement doesn't last long, however, as the new band break free and they manage to cobble together a new ride, a la Orcs from Warhammer 40k. Very Warhammer 40k. And they blast through an omen path that Loot throws out. So they get out of the camp where they're being held. They're driving straight towards a gigantic tree. Chandra seems to understand what Loot's power is, or at least trusts him to do something. And Loot flashes his big tail.
Well, she's also already seen the Speed Demon crew do this, where they just appear from nowhere, and she's like, and then she sees the glowing tail, and goes, "Oh, it must be him."
Yeah, which is fairly smart.
And now we are now confirming. It probably was already confirmed, but we now know for sure that it's not that he creates Simon Pass, that he knows where they are, and then he can open them. He's not creating it from any point to any point. He actively finds the ones that are already there, and he allows them to be opened and traversed.
Which is actually a much better power than just saying he creates them.
Well, again, he's the map. He's not an architect, he's a map.
The omen path that Loot finds takes them back into Amonkhet, where they crash land.
You could quote-unquote say, oh, it's a bit convenient. It's like, well, maybe there's a lot of potential omen paths, like capillaries, like veins and capillaries.
Well, also, like, there could be, like, groups of... The omen paths could group.
Yeah. Again, when we eventually get information on this, it will explain everything if we do eventually get information on this, but it is more lore about something we don't fully comprehend yet.
They have to fix their car, and during the overnight on the desert plain, Chandra meets a new god of Amonkhet, who kind of just sort of very casually saunters up to her and starts chatting her up.
So if you're reading in chronological order, the Amonkhet side story has already come out by this point, so you've already met Ketramos.
Yes.
But you don't meet him in the same way that Chandra does. The way that Basri... By the way, Basri has a massive glow-up. I have a lot of respect for a character I didn't really care about before, but between the side story and the main stories, I'm like, you know what? This is a guy I can get behind.
Yeah.
So he obviously sees Ketramos as this giant fucking shining god, but Chandra has just got him and he just sits beside her and goes...
He's just a dude.
Hey, how you doing? What a chat. I'm really new. I've only just been born. Can I learn some stuff off of you?
Ketramos is a young god. He's a lion-headed god. So another cat Amonkhet god. Another cat Amonkhet god who has a bow. An Amonkhet. Heyo. That has a bow.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely a Ketra's, like, spiritual son.
Yeah, I guess if so, a Ketra was like a normal... I say a normal female.
Like a normal cat god.
Like a house cat. And it's almost like you add Bontu's crocodileness to it and it can form and then turns that cat into a lion.
A wild cat, yeah.
Which is quite cool.
Yeah, very cool. I'd love to know more about the Amonkhet gods and what their life cycle's about.
Does that mean between snake and bird there's amphibian?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah?
Yeah, that works.
Eggs?
Sure.
They all have eggs.
Oh my god, yes, absolutely. Eventually all the gods just become a platypus.
Well,
There's one 5-colour platypus god.
What is the step between a snake that slithers on the ground and a bird that flies, than an amphibian that can hop?
That's very true, but I guess amphibians and reptiles aren't the same, right? Though they have a similar... Let's not get into this, because I don't think we're scientific enough. Exactly.
We're talking about ancient Egyptian gods that aren't ancient Egyptian. Like, they're like...
We are sitting... Why are we applying logic to anything?
There's a card that... what's the Bloodghast? Is it Bloodghast? Yeah. No. What's the reprint that's come out?
Yeah. The vampire spirit.
That has the flavour text is, we give thanks to the fly, the wasp, the locust, the scarab.
Chitin Court.
Yeah.
The 5, so we know of 3 of them, which is weird because we know of 3 of them, but were they mutated and transformed by Bolus? We are segueing the shit out of this episode. I love it.
Yeah.
But you had the Scarab God, the Locust God, and the Scorpion God. And then they mentioned, the Wasp and the Fly. But if they weren't already bastardized, did 2 extra form to fill up the other 3? And obviously Scorpion God is dead.
Yes.
Was impaled on the spike.
Corpse Auger, not Bloodghast. Sorry.
Corpse Auger, yeah. And he was obviously spiked. So there's only 4 of the Chitin Core. Anyway, eventually we're going to get back to Amonkhet.
And also, this
is so cool.
So, regular listener and interactor, I'm going to say on the socials, Artemi, what's up Artemi, was talking to me today about lots of the different flavour sort of beats in the cards. And one thing we were talking about is that I said about, so we've now got Leonin that are confirmed on Amonkhet, which wasn't in the set last time. They had Jackals. And then they were like, well, yeah, but we did have a Leonin-headed god in our Ketra, and now Ketramos.
Would you say that they are Leonin-headed or cat-headed?
Well,
cat-headed.
They are
2 different things, right? Because I know that they're both cat on the type line, but a Leonin and a cat in Magic are 2 different
I guess,
things,
but
right?
like near enough, right?
And would they be called Leonin on Amonkhet?
No,
they'd be
but
called
like just for colloquialism, catfolk.
Yeah.
But all the other gods, like, so we have the jackals, the jackal-headed gods. We've got the bird folk with Kefnet.
Yeah.
But we didn't get the crocodilians with.
We didn't have crocodile folk, but we had a crocodile because it was all the we had them in the trials, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But are we basically saying, is there a chance that actually when we go back into Amonkhet's ancient past and all like the zombies kind of like come out of the ground, or like when the plane becomes whole again,
the dead come back?
Do you know what I mean? Or like when it kind of heals enough that actually there might have been whole races on Amonkhet that Bolus wiped out.
How
there could be
not
fly
a horse
people.
God? You know, we know that
because they're not humanoids. Is the 2 humanoids?
Yeah, but you know the crested sunmare that came from a far-flung place of Amonkhet that said that might be more than just.
So there could be a horse god.
What's the fucking city called?
Oh my gosh!
Oh, I know. I wish my brain today has not been very good for names.
The Luxor is the river. The
the
Heckma is the bubble.
Yeah. So
what
annoying.
is it?
I can't. I know it's right. It's staring me in the face.
Okay,
anyway,
whatever it is.
It's not the only place in Amonkhet that might have life. Was with the thing with the crested sunmare and everything we hear about Amonkhet in the side story and on reading and when we get through the main stories, it shows that there is obviously life outside. It is just exceptionally diminished, and it's also interesting now that with the Chitin Court, that means that there are 4 quote-unquote bad gods.
Like, what do you call them? Plague gods.
And 3 good gods because the blue-green got combined and the white-black got combined. And Hazaret's still out there living life with her
spear.
With her and her Lazatep hand. You
know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
God, this is such
she meets the fucking guy. She meets Ketramos.
And he's cool.
And Ketramos is cool. He's a good dude. They're there having a chat. He's like, do you know what, Chandra? You're a good person. Don't worry about it. It's all good. And I'm like interested about the rest of the multiverse.
Also interesting, 2 female gods make 1 male god.
Is that interesting?
I think so.
Cool. Your cat's over there, by the way. He's very smart. He keeps opening the door.
I know.
Back on Avishkar, the race is entering its final stages. Thank fuck, because we're now 57 minutes in. Although there's still a lot of story.
And also,
arguably, there's more story in this back half.
And also, again, you got the planes the wrong way around, but that's not the main point I'm going to make. The thing is that there was also, at one point during as they're going through Amonkhet, there's a storm that chases them towards the
that
finish
is relevant.
Line. At which point, again, I didn't really think anything of it initially, but this is the dragon storm of the set.
Yes.
Again, it's not particularly obvious because it says shadows and wings and stuff, and my brain didn't automatically think dragons because we're on Amonkhet. It thought the monsters and things that we see in the nighttime that we actually never see any. We never see any Amonkhet horrors.
No, but we know the demons are out there.
We know they're out there, but we never see them, which might even mean that other stories untrue. Is it unfounded?
No, there's the Archfiend of Ifnir is a card.
Yeah, as in like within this set playing, we have.
Playing.
We don't know now since Amonkhet's been quote unquote cleansed. It says it in the side story that there are horrors out there, but we never see any. And then they say there are horrors, obviously, and we never see any. The only thing we see is a dragon storm, which makes no sense on Amonkhet anyway. So maybe it's all and actually shut up. There aren't any horrors anymore. Who knows? But yeah, there was a dragon storm.
Back on Avishkar, the race is entering its final stages, and Spitfire is neck and neck with Winter, heading towards the finish line, when the safety bollards that are designed to kind of catch collisions shoot up and cause both races to crash. This is as a result of Spitfire's father, Mohar, making a deal with some of the race organisers to basically corrupt the race, which he sees as being like the pinnacle of like the renegade government. He wants to disrupt it and basically stop it from happening so he can stage his revolution. His coup.
So, and also the only reason he's able to do this is because Jace basically turns around and goes, "Hey, it won't take me much to convince them that this is what they want to do."
Exactly.
Mind mages are really powerful. It's
They're
really,
super
it's a really
powerful.
good thing we don't have one megalomaniacal one who's about to try and take over the multiverse.
Well, in as we say, we'll get there.
Yeah.
As Mohar runs over to kind of like unmask Spitfire, who he sees as being one of the heroes of this new government, he realizes,
It's my daughter.
It's his daughter, and he goes into full, "What are you doing here? Get back to the house! You've shamed us all!" Like, you know.
Oh, is this what you've been getting up to? Is he lose? It's funny. It's always in these situations. It's never, oh, I need to change my opinion of Spitfire. It's suddenly, my daughter. I'm still not. I still don't accept in my head your Spitfire. You've just done a naughty.
But this is fine. It's a storytelling device.
Yeah,
it's all good.
yeah. I'm not criticizing it because I think it's just funny that's how.
I mean, because it could be. You could quite easily go. This is a little bit tried and tested, but stories need certain beats to follow.
Yeah, and also the reason things are tried and tested is, and the reason why cliches are cliches is because at some point that was truth.
Yeah.
And just because you do the same truth over and over again doesn't change the fact that it's true. You know, it just might not be something you need to go over each time, and it's done in a good way this time, so it's worth it.
Jason Vraska, who are, of course, the mysterious benefactors of this new coup, this new revelation, make themselves known, basically publicly. They come out of the shadows, and they make it very clear who they're looking for. They're looking for their little buddy, their little son, Loot. That is not currently on Avishkar.
No.
Where the fuck is Loot?
Yeah.
Well, we know. They're on Amonkhet with the rest of the crew. They finally fix their car for the second time. Yeah. Second time in a matter of days.
Fronds and plants, and I'm like,
rhino bones.
why can't we see a
Hippo
picture
bones.
of them making this rocket car out of bones?
Well,
and
this
reeds?
this is why.
How is Doretti an artificer of bones?
Well, this is a good encapsulation as to why I think this set works more than the hat sets. It's because when you had, just to go again, completely tangentialize this, when we had the cowboy hats and we had the plane of whatever the fuck plane it was, Outlaws of Thunder Junction. What was the plane called again?
Thunder Junction.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't even give it a name.
It's like they all went, okay, so we're all agreed that it's the hats. That's what we're all doing, right?
Finger guns.
Yeah.
Weirdly enough, right on point.
No one brought that to the table. You could argue the Atin maybe brought it to the table and everyone else copied them, but they didn't dive deep enough into that fucking bit of lore.
Yeah, that really should have been it.
Anyway.
But anyway.
They didn't do that. They just agreed, well, on this plane, we all dress like this.
There's a sun, so we need to wear a hat.
Whereas what this is doing is it's going, okay, they all have to basically fundamentally do this is what a race is, this is what cars are, like, by and large. But every plane does it in their own way, even if some of them look like Earth, which you could say you don't like very much. But, like, the fact that Doretti and PNLR from completely different planes are going, how do we fix this thing on a plane that's not our own? And they talk about, well, hippo bones have the density of metal, but they're light. Yeah,
and they say it's the durability of aluminium with the sturdiness. It's like they use real world analogs. I'm like, that's cool because they're transferring their skill of artifice, and sometimes it's not metallurgy, right? It's not like Tezzeret going, I can literally transmute metal into shape with my mind. It's directly going, no, I know how to build things.
Yeah.
Give me the right materials. No matter where they are, I will make what I can make from them.
And which is why I think it is sort of okay that they're choosing a slightly more colloquial writer like Rivera, because they're using maybe slightly less heightened language or like less fantasy language, because otherwise we'd be completely in a spiral where we're going, so we know them as cars, but on Avishkar they call them whoopie whoops, and you're like, well, that doesn't fucking matter. Like, who cares?
Some things don't need specification. Like, there are so many things that you just need to leave the audience to go, cool, I can fill in the gaps.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, while we're on Doretti, strangely formal and proper in his language.
Well, he's from high society.
Yeah, but if you look at his card art, he's got he's just a greaser.
But that's him not wanting to get his work clothes dirty.
I see. Okay. But it's just interesting.
He's still from Fiora.
Because I don't think I can't remember the last time I read a story that had Doretti talking in it. Because
no.
I don't remember the Fiora stories because they were so long ago.
Yes.
I just remember there being Goblin and Goblin because it was
I don't know.
and Krenko.
Oh no, maybe there was one of him. There must have been.
There was a thing about there was a break. There was a jail break. That was really cool.
Because Grenzo was in that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I just can't remember exactly what his voice was, but I was taken aback a little bit and also pleasantly surprised by the fact that he wasn't just a crazy goblin, rah, rah, rah. He was like, no, shut up. You know, fingers on his brow going, please, can I have some
he doesn't
sense?
Like the other goblins.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, they fix their car, they follow Loot's tail to an own path, they go back to Avishkar, and what follows them is the Dragon Storm. So when they enter into Avishkar, and they enter into the, holy shit, there's another revolution going on, the race is still technically on, but all this fucking stuff's happening. There's Jace, he's a mind mage. Then they turn around and go, oh, there's a fucking dragon as well, and a dragon...
Yeah, there's another dragon.
Yeah. Now, this is an interesting little flavour beat, which I loved. The dragon comes in, And then there's a line, I'm paraphrasing, that says, all of Avish cars, self-defense is kick into gear with bolts and plasmas and X, Y, and Z. And I was thinking, well, that's a bit convenient. No,
Chandra goes, oh, of course. They've just gone through an effects and evasion. Of course they're ready for the next one.
And on top of that, because I went, well, this is even cleverer, they have dragons on Kaladesh.
So they would need, because they've got the cat dragons.
Yeah, the tigers.
Yeah.
So they need all this shit anyway. Oh, you've got your own cat running around.
Yeah, it's fine. Let him be.
Oh, do you want some
No, he
wine?
just wants to sniff everything that's new. He's like, this is mine now.
Anyway, so I thought that was a really neat flavor beat that made sense. It's not just like, oh, they suddenly have weapons. It's like, well, of course they have weapons. So we have a situation where we've got a fucking... It's another... Is it a Colligan dragon? Because it's all lightning.
I think they were deliberately evasive with
vague.
which one it was. Because I think they would have mentioned... We would have known if it was... Yeah, because I don't even think it says lightning specifically. I think it just happens.
Just say storm.
Yeah, exactly. And I think
they do talk about intense light and heat. So I did wonder whether it was going to be one of the, not Abzan. What's the green-white ones?
Yes, the Abzan, the Dramoka.
Dramoka.
Yeah.
I thought it might be a Dramokan dragon.
Well,
actually.
it's like because again, it's been a long time since. But the main, obviously, Ojatai was super feathered, didn't mention any feathers.
No.
Atarkans are super spiky, which it could be, and mostly fire. Obviously, Silumgar are sleek, and it's all
So I don't think
breath.
it's a Silumgar one. We've already seen a Colligan one.
Dramokans don't really seem to breathe fire. They just seem to be bulky.
Well, they breathe light.
bruisers.
It's like light.
Oh, it is
beams.
light. Yeah, what's the one whenever you put a counter on it?
Sunscorched region.
Sunscorched region. Yeah,
I play it in my Karlov deck.
Yeah, it's literally what I imagined.
Yeah.
So it must either be Colligan or Atarka. Yeah.
There's a dragon.
Dargan's be nuts.
I'm
man.
halfway through a bottle of wine now. We've got to finish this fucking story. Do you know what? I prefer doing it this way.
Look, we're not having to talk specificities. We are going through a bunch of stories and having opinions about the generalities of it. Alcohol is good for this thing.
We got a whole bunch of shit going on. And then who should appear? Fucking Archangel Abyssin.
Do you know what?
No, sorry. Archangel Elsabeth. Archangel Abyssin. I play an Archangel Abyssin deck.
Up until this point,
Yeah.
I'd completely forgotten that she shows up and randomly boys a fucking dragon off. Yeah.
So the dragons
What the
the dragons causing chaos. We've got the consul and the renegades all fighting each other again. And then one of the characters looks up. You have
Angel.
Chandra and Jace at this point, and Vraska are all Mexicans standing off against Loot. And then Chandra looks up and is like, what the fuck is that? Is it a bird? Is it a plane?
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
It's the saviour of the entire multiverse,
It's the
Elspeth
saviour
Tyrell.
of the multiverse out there. And again, no fucking artwork. Wouldn't it have been nice to see an artwork? Sorry, I'm just going to pour some liquid. Just for the listeners at home, this is 4 Loco pink melon made with vodka. It looks awful.
This record is getting absolutely off the rails. I love it.
But yeah, like, imagine all I wanted was just a picture of a dragon and Elspeth in front of it being like, yo, what's up?
If they were, I mean, I know they still do them, but if they were really doing like story moments in the cards again, that absolutely should have been
Yeah,
one.
because I guess you can't just put Elspeth in the set proper because it doesn't really fit. And
Well, they put Mu Yang-ling in the fucking
So
set.
that's fine because that's like you don't know all of these other things that are happening, and again, Mu Yang-ling is so out of the story that putting her in, I think, is actually more of an obvious. Like it would be more
maybe
detracting than Elspeth. Elspeth was the last saver of the last arc. Everyone's still gonna be like, oh yeah, shit. What would she be doing if she's not going around trying to help people?
Yeah.
You know, what else would she be doing? So it didn't. As much as I was like, oh fuck, they're going there. I wasn't like, oh, they're going there and I'm upset about it. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. Let's see this fucking, badass angel bitch take down this dragon.
Fair ado. She does.
She does. She does take down the
She
dragon.
fucking marks him off. So, Elspeth's dealing with the dragon. The renegades handle the consulate pretty handily because they're all in disarray and they haven't really thought they're like revolt through. And Chandra elects not to fully fight Jace and Vraska because she's grown as a character and she doesn't want to fire a fireball into a crowd of people.
Hurt other people.
Exactly. So she does, unfortunately, give up loot to Jace and Vraska. Interesting bit of a Vraska-Jace bit, which we, earlier in the story, that keeps coming through. Vraska is not seemingly fully on board with Jace's plan. Whatever Jace's plan is, we don't know what it is.
Can we talk about it now, or are we going to come back to Jason Vraska?
Let's come back to it, because we just need to finish off the story. So, everything's starting to wrap up. All the threats are starting to be downplayed, except, as I mentioned earlier, the race is technically still on. The rules of the Grand Prix is clear.
This is a moment in the story.
It's across the line.
Yeah, there's a moment in the story where I think it's Spitfire goes, wait. As much as that's blocked off, No one stopped this is still absolutely
And
happening.
nothing in the rules of the Grand Prix says anything about crossing the line on a vehicle.
Exactly. And I think at this point, you then pull over to Winter, who's been fucked up by smashing his fucking... Imagine, like, a random barrier comes at you where you're going, like, 70, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
He's obviously he's got a broken leg. He's lucky to be alive, let's be honest, but he's got a broken leg and he's hobbling on foot, single foot, down the track. And at this point, I'm like... And it's funny, because at this point, I'm like, please, he's got to win, like... Just for the sake of...
He has to survive.
Also, in my mind, I want Valgavoth to get the Aether Spark.
So, we haven't really spoken about Winter's motivation. Valgavoth has sent Winter, with the help of the Speed Demon and the other Dustborn denizens, to win the Aether Spark so that Valgavoth can enter the multiverse proper, and in return, Winter will gain his freedom, which is all he ever wanted.
It's what everyone always wants. Every single person's motivation, which is really easy to kind of like empathise with, is the freedom to have, like, to freedom of your confines. Whether it's
Winter's not a bad guy. He's been literally terrorised on a horror plane for half of his adult life.
He tried to feed 3 Planeswalkers ritualistically into a demon so he could just get to Innistrad.
If I was in the most low-key, no high-stakes horror film, but if I was living that existence for like a year, I'd feed you to a demon.
Yeah, I get it. I find that as much as I do and this is the thing, I say all of that, I really still wanted him to win. They do justify, like, I feel really bad for the guy. And I really want him to win. And as much as he's a cheating little shitbag, and he was really arsehole to Luke, by the end of it, I'm like, you know what? He's hobbling on a broken foot, no one else has put this effort in, and then what happens?
Oh,
Hippos!
Hippos
happen!
Oh, sorry. The Amonkhet win.
Yeah, the Amonkhet win.
So,
who saw that coming from the artwork with the mummified hand holding the fucking thing?
They do it in the most... like hero-coded way ever.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily intending to be ahead of the pack. What it was Basri and his second in command, the embalmed eternalized... No, not eternalized, because that's the Lauzatep. The whatever. Zahur, the embalmed Leonin, are riding around on their hippo-pulled chariot, picking up survivors from the wreckage, making sure people aren't getting hurt, and they find themselves in the lead, and they think, well, between us and the end of the race, there's no more, like, injured people. Let's just go for it.
Why not finish it?
And they fucking do, and they win it for the glory of Amonkhet.
There's a picture, and it's Spitfire being like, "Oh, I'm still going." Yeah. The chariot's way ahead of it, and then there's just this little blue figure of Winter
on his knees.
hobbling. I'm like, my boy, because again, like, they weren't even intending to win, and I guess that's the nice thing, right? Is that at the Amonkhet, we actually completely breezed past this. There's a whole few paragraphs presented that one of the Amonkhet gets killed.
Yes.
One of the living Amonkhet gets killed. And there's a whole thing that we will probably come back round to when we talk about Amonkhet, when we do go back there, about how that they've adopted this, the dead aren't really dead, they're alive, it's just another stage of living.
Like, they, instead of them being servile, which is obviously a bolus fucking thing, to serve the living, it's like, well, no, this is like Theros, it's just another step.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we'll get into that. There was this whole thing with Pia talking to the kid that gets killed, just checking if he's all right with the process of being embalmed and going through into like the afterlife.
Apparently he's a bit of a
living.
fitty as well.
And the thing is, like, and he's happy with it. She was like, I just wanted to check, Mother Instinct. And they're presented, the Amonkhet, as much as they're just wandering around with a bunch of zombies, that's essentially what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're really nice. It's really heartfelt. There's this camaraderie. There's this almost like, I don't want to say the word tribalism, but ritualistic tradition.
Yes,
There's tradition. Yeah. There's this lovely tradition that is the reason why a lot of ancient cultures are still revered now. The Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, is because that traditional aspect created real grounding it's a real human quality, right? That with all this other bullshit going on, people riding insects and beasts and everything, it's just quite nice to have hey, halfway through we just have a funeral for the guy that died in the middle of the race, and then he gets to lift the fucking trophy,
which is the zombie hand that was on the card art. Everyone thought it was Vraska.
Yeah, which now I'm looking back and I'm like, it's quite clearly an embalmed hand.
I mean, I saw the Vraska thing. Not to be super cool, I spotted that it might not have been Vraska, but then when people were saying, look, this hand with the rings and the way the bracelets are, and then they show this other artwork of Vraska post-Phyrexia, you went, I sort of see it. I just thought if they'd done that, I mean, I'm fucking wilded out by the fact that they had an artwork where there was a hand up before the stories got released. But if it was Vraska's hand, I was like, I know they've made blunders before. They wouldn't show that much.
Also, if it was Vraska's hand, I think it'd be much more obviously like that to me.
Like big nails or whatever.
When I looked at it, when people say, "Oh, it's Vraska," I'm like, artists don't get told, by the way, put 3 rings on this hand with 3 bangles. That is entirely like, and some artists don't even like look at the old Vraska artwork.
No,
They're like,
of course not.
this is what their face looks like. This is what their body proportions look like. Everything else I can do what the fuck I want with.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing that's like, kind of crazy is that I didn't think that, and I'm glad that I didn't immediately jump to the conclusion. But when it started getting towards, because the Aether Spark as a card got released about 3 or 4 episodes into the story, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, that's the Amon. That's an Amonkhet hand.
Yeah.
And right up until the very end of the story, which is good writing, like
Yes,
Rivera
yes,
did really,
yes.
really well with this, I completely forgot that. Somehow I'd seen the card, went, that's the Amonkhet they're going to win. And it got to the last episode, and I guess I just really wanted Winter to win that badly that I forgot that, of course, here come the hippos. So it kind of undermines my point because it didn't even matter to me in the end. But to someone out there is someone who looked at that and went, that's the Amonkhet. And the entire race, they're going, yeah, but I know the Amonkhet are going to win. I guess the point for that is that it's not a matter of who won.
No.
The whole point was the journey, and that sounds really mad.
No.
But that's the whole point
good
of this story.
writing.
Because the final, it's almost like the winner of the race was an afterthought. And then when the person who won it in a way that was really wholesome, that made you go, oh, you know what? If anyone was going to win it, yeah, I'm glad it was them.
You know that game, it's pretty famous, Mario Kart?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Mario Kart.
Yeah.
No one fucking gives a shit who wins.
Friendships are lost over Mario Kart again.
But then you just fucking press play again. Like, it's more about the weird shit that happens in between.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all about the items being thrown around and the crazy
Yeah.
changes in between laps.
Because no one really wins Mario Kart, you just luck through it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and again, so it was amazing it was a shame. It was nice to have this kind of idea of the neck and neck, but again, because the race, and I said this right at the beginning, because the race is the backdrop to the actual story, which is these people going through emotional character arcs and learning about each other. What we didn't really touch on is that this is 10 different planes. Technically 11 if you count Muruganda because it's not represented within the teams.
Sure.
It's all of these planes learning and rubbing up against each other. Like, the Murugandans absolutely despise the fact that these invaders are coming and racing on their plane. There are certain tribes that have agreed to it, but there are certain parts where they're like, but I thought they said there wasn't going to be any trouble. It's like, you can't control an entire planet.
Yeah.
Like, imagine going like, hey, but America agreed to this thing. It's like, yeah, but Russia's over there going, get the fuck off of Earth.
The ape king of Muruganda doesn't even understand the concept of someone looking at them through a camera.
Yes,
and he throws it up into the
Oh my god, I forget about that. No, because he keeps asking, it's like, so the people that I'm talking to are in the camera. It's like, yeah, kind of, sort of. And he's like brushing off. But this, again, I'd have loved to have seen a 30-second clip of this of where the monkey's just staring at the camera, just getting more and more confused about how they can be... That is brilliant. Yeah. That is right. That is magic writing at its finest.
This is it. It's, oh, bless you, my darling.
Oh, do you want to go up? Oh, I know. You want to go
God,
up.
your cat sneezed and it's the best thing ever. Anyway, after all that shit happens, we enter, like, the kind of almost, like, epilogue, but it's whatever. So Elsbeth is telling Nissa and Chandra, by the way, these dragon storms were actually a bit of a thing across the multiverse.
So do we reckon that she's been tracking?
Yes.
Also, how?
Well, because
my Elspeth sense is tingling.
Well, she is the angel of the multiverse.
Yeah,
that is her role, and she can fly and she can planeswalk.
Yeah,
she can probably cook.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Well,
she can do a backflip.
Do we know if she's de-sparked or not?
Elspeth?
Yeah, we get a Planeswalker card of her from.
No, because at the end of this paragraph, she disappears.
Oh, does she? I can't remember. Yeah,
she planeswalks.
Okay, fine.
She absolutely. If anything, she is like the ultimate spark.
Yeah. Do you reckon she stole everyone else's? That's why they're de-sparked.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we called it now, Watsy.
Yeah. Exactly. You better write it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of it, and I guess this is the thing that's interesting, right? Is that we've had so we complained about how in the past few stories the Dragonstorm part of it really hasn't. It's been the Omen Path arc part 2, and the Dragonstorms haven't really been very prevalent. And then in this one story, you get 2.
Yes.
And I don't think the one on Amonkhet, again, it was
you get
super
one
that
clear. Follows them around. Surely.
So do we think do we think that there's an 11th racer and it's just a dragon in a storm going, I'm going to win this race?
No, he's going, guys, I want to talk to you. I want to tell you about Dragon Jesus.
Life insurance, it's really important, especially when being chased by a dragon. That's a great business model. Buy my life insurance or I'll eat you.
Have you made sure all of your fire extinguishers meet the
Both things are perfect for dragons. Yes. Oh my god, that's it.
Do you know the reason I have to have 4 fire extinguishers on my boat is because they all have to add up to a certain number of rating.
Really?
So
yeah, of course.
So I could have one massive one, or I could have 4 little ones.
Yeah, because it's about the size of the fire rather than
it's about how much material on the boat I can put out.
Yeah.
Anyway,
cool. That's
and then the last little bit, we don't really get to talk they don't really settle too long on the idea that Chandra didn't win the Spark and Nissa's upset about it.
I'm sure we'll get fallout from that again.
Maybe. I think this is...
Also, Nissa didn't really care.
No, she was sort of fine about it.
She comes barreling in as well. Like, she comes barreling in just being scared for Chandra's life.
Which, again, is a massive bit of character growth, because arguably you could say... So, I've seen a lot of, like, memes and whatever online about, like, Nissa retcon when she was a racist elf in Duel of the Planeswalkers, and then Nahiri now, when Nahiri, like...
When she was black-green the first time, not the second time.
Yeah, and then Nahiri's like, I stole your racism, like, kind of thing.
She did!
Because we see in Zendikar Rising that Nissa is not We're terrible. Nissa is not willing to be, like, evil for Zendikar, whereas Nahiri is willing to be... She looks like she's willing to do the dark deeds.
Nissa was naive in the way that she did it. Nahiri was fucking not only, crazy because thousands of years in a hellhole.
She was borderline fascist about
it. And she was deliberately doing this. It was an active decision, whereas I think Nissa was just a product of her culture and then exposure to something that was really, really adverse.
Yeah, isolationist.
Yeah, exactly.
So Nissa's not even actually that fussed, and was never that fussed. Like she never wanted Chandra to enter the race to win her the Spark in the first place. It was just, and again, we discussed it earlier. Chandra just knew that this was a way for her to give Nissa what she wanted.
If she had the opportunity to, why wouldn't she try?
Well, exactly. And I'm sure if she won, Nissa would have been like, cheers.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Anyway, doesn't happen. And we end the story, thank Christ, Andy, on 3 figures. 1 hooded, 1 tentacled, and 1 small and furry, looking over the steps of Tarkir.
Yeah. So, let's reflect along the entire B-plot about how, the way it was introduced was very... Oh, I have a friend that can help me with this overthrowing of the government. Which, from Jason's point of view, it shouldn't be everything's fine.
Yeah,
nothing should be overthrown anyway. So, bit of a twat anyway for that. Everyone, the thing about Jace that I find really annoying is everyone's very quick to forgive him when he does things that are good and be like, yeah, but he's actually quite a nice guy. And when he does bad things, I was like, yeah, he's a complete cunt. And I'm like, but which one of those are they? And yes, you can be both, but the flip flop between them and how quick it is, the fact that we don't get a little bit of a jump point between the end of Duskmorn, of where, yes, or you let Kaito go. That's one person going, hey, this thing is way more important than you, I'm so sorry. But because we don't get his perspective, we're still a little bit peeved off and pissed and annoyed about it. And then the next time we see him, he's there going, hey, bad politics guy, I'm gonna back your fascism because I need you to help me get my kid back. Well... And then all of this time, we've got Vraska sat there going... And multiple people, multiple point of views mentioned that Vraska kind of looks a bit sheepish behind, going like, "Oh, I believe in what we're doing, but I don't like the way that you're doing it."
Well, there's several moments which I think are key in terms of the characterization of Jace, and I don't know what the implications are. You might have some ideas. So one of them is that he refers to loot in a kind of offhanded way, practical way. He called him a bargaining chip. And then Vraska basically calls him up on it, going, "He's a living thing. He's essentially our son. He's not a bargaining chip." And Jace was like, yes, but in the case of what we're talking about,
the perspective of the other person, he is, yeah.
And the other one is that when Chandra and Jace are having their face-off, because Vraska's not really involved, Jace laughs in a way that Chandra notes is how when she first met him, which was essentially when he was evil Mindwipe Jace.
Yeah.
He laughs in a way that's like, I'm a fucking mind mage, deal with it.
So, yeah, because he makes them bleed from the eyes and everything. Like, so he basically completely, like, he mind fucks them into unconsciousness, which I'm sure he can probably do in a slightly less aggressive way that makes them have an aneurysm. And it's true that we keep getting told, and we have been told this for years and years and years, he's the fucking flavor text of omniscience. Jace is a real powerful fucking guy.
Potentially the most
He
powerful.
mind-fucked a Sphinx.
Yeah.
That's really impressive. And a Sphinx that's really good at mind-fucking people. He reverse mind-fucked the mind-fucker. Like, that's really impressive. And this entire time, he's just been going, just trying to help my friends doing stuff, being a pirate, da-da-da-da-da. And yeah, okay, the whole point is that he's never had full access to his memories, and it's the foil, right? Going, here's the most powerful thing in the world, but he doesn't know it. It's like the baby Lich from fucking Adventure Time. You know? It's like, cool. But now he's fully aware of what he can do. And he held back so much that all he did was put them unconscious. And he even said, hey, it doesn't take me much to convince people. Like, he could overthrow any plane. and make anything that he wants to happen. The problem with Jace is he is so laser focused on his goal, because he hasn't said exactly what it is or what he's doing.
We still don't really know what it is.
We don't know what the Phoenix aspect and the resetting of it and what the fucking Dragonstorms has to do with it, even if it has to do with it, but clearly it does because we've now gone to Target. Good, I like this, because I haven't actually come up with anything. I'm sick. I don't like doing theories for Magic anymore. They annoy me.
You're so good at it, though.
I know, that's why it annoys me, because I get it bang on and then I'm like, I'd rather it be more interesting.
You have said some up-your-arse things before. That might be the most up-your-arse.
I called Azor fucking years ahead of it.
You will never let it go.
No, because you know I was back. Anyway, the problem I find with Magic theorying is I'm excited to see it happen in real time, and I haven't got time in my life now to be obsessing over it to the extent that I used to be able to for it to be like this really important thing. And also, stories have been very hit or miss. So if the reveal is with a story that I don't particularly like, and we read it, so I'm just not going to set myself up for expectation. But the thing that kind of frustrates me is that the Dragonstorm part of it, we have no idea why it's tied in. Elspeth makes no mention. We have no specificities as to why Jace is doing what he's doing. But the annoying thing is, because we don't get a voice, just one conversation between Jace and Vraska away from everything else that isn't informing the other point of views and isn't from the other point of view, it's from their point of view, is that it's hard to justify the individual things happening, even though I know he's super laser focused and he thinks this is the only way to do it and he can't possibly think anything different. And of course he thinks he's right because he's Jace. And he's not only thinks he's right, he's also got Vraska, who he loves, and they've gone through absolute hell on earth to be together. And yet there's still kind of like her going, oh, are you sure you want to be doing it? It almost takes away the genuineness of their relationship. It makes it feel very base and paper thin, where it's Jace going, I'm actually really evil now, and Vraska's go, yeah, he is, and I don't like it, but I love him. And there's this kid thing now, and it's like, cool, without a massive justification, unless we get a really banging story, like we did with the with when they go back to Vryn, and we get that whole lovely tender moment where he meets back up with Pia. He has this whole thing with Vraska, and it's as much as they end on the wrong note of, hey, we need to reset the multiverse, I'm like, I can believe love like that. I don't see any of that love in this. And maybe it's just because we see the point of views of Spitfire and Chandra, who can't understand their point of view.
Yeah.
But because we sometimes see the third person in these stories, I feel like there could have been a note, unless they're deliberately trying to push him and push her. But there's been a lot of pushback saying, hey, it's a bit of a character assassination to Vraska, who used to be completely heartless, to now not be heartless. But then it's also a character assassination for someone who's really heartfelt with Jace, now being really kind of like, oh, I guess I'll just go along with whatever he's saying. So it's almost like a character assassination in both directions from her. And because we don't see his point of view, I can't think he's clever. I can't forgive him for the bullshit because I can't understand it yet. And that's all well and good, but God, it sets a massive precedence for what the actual, payoff's going to be. And that's where we're kind of at now. We're getting towards the end of the Dragonstorm arc. So it better fucking lead to something cool and interesting. It better be that he and Ugin... Damn it, I'm doing it. I'm doing the fucking theory thing. It better be that he and Ugin have this massive conversation when they end up back at him. He goes, Jace, I'm so glad you went on this task after our last conversation.
Yeah.
By the way, I've lost Nicol Bolas.
Well.
Right?
It's not fully formulated.
Yeah.
It's full of holes.
I love holes.
I don't know what I'm talking about. Here's my thought. We talked about Jace being like the mindfucker.
Yeah. Can we just get a placeable code? Jace, the mindfucker. Being capitalised.
I guarantee it's been done. We'll find it.
Beautiful.
He's the fuckest of minds.
Yeah.
Who are the only two minds that fuck harder than Jace's mind?
Yeah. Nicol Bolas and Ugin.
What are Nicol Bolas and Ugin?
Twins.
They are also
dragons.
What's been happening?
Dragonstorms.
What happens with the Dragonstorms?
Yeah. Do we reckon that... Oh, that's so cool, yeah.
The Dragonstorms are moving dragons from planes where they don't belong to other planes.
Because Nicol Bolas is trying to get from a place...
Nicol Bolas is in a plane which is locked away, but if he happens to go...
Oh, what if Ugin's lost his spark, and now they're both stuck in the meditation realm, and Ugin tried to find a way out through an omen portal, or maybe he's trying to block all the omen... Yeah, okay, right, I see where your mind's going, and that's cool. I really like it. The annoying thing with that is, though, that how does that tie in with Jace and Vraska?
So Jace and Vraska need loot to find where all the omen paths are, so they can close them.
Ah, I see. Okay. But don't they think it's too late? Wasn't there... And this is the thing that kind of... I didn't like about the whole Phoenix rise from the ashes, is that there is still this idea of that it has to be burnt to the ground before it can rebirth. But maybe Ugin knows... Maybe even links back into the Eldrazi thing of where they're a natural process that has everything die, and then it rebirths again. So
Emrakul's also still in the moon.
that is going to be a meme until like 20. I'm going to call it now until about 2033. I reckon.
Every storyline is like,
by the way, Emrakul's in the moon.
She's in the moon, guys.
On the worst plane. The worst plane you can live on, where every motherfucking thing's happening. You've also got Eldrazi tied up in the moon.
Oh, gross.
Don't even worry about it.
Edge of Eternities, space.
That's got moons.
Emrakul's in the moon.
Is she in all the moons? Are there overpass material? Yeah. So
I just think it has to.
There are so many things in the air,
do
right?
A Tarkis storyline with dragons and planes and Jace, and not do Bolas and Ugin.
Do you think would that not? Because at that point, you're not doing a story about Tarkir. You're doing a story about Tarkir and the meditation.
But the last time that we saw Tarkir in a story was the 2019.
Was tied to the meditation realm.
Yeah. Was it Kate's?
Wasn't it her last story?
I'm just trying to think of her surname.
Yeah, I can't remember. But yeah, you're
Kate
right.
Elliott?
Kate Elliott, yeah, and it was her last story arc, I think, right?
Yeah, and she did the whole, this is Tarkir because this is what...
the golden egg with what's her fucking chops, the Teema girl, the lady who sees the egg and then follows it thinking it's going to be something prestigious.
That whole thing. By the way, guys, we've recommended this like 15 times. Yeah. The best arc in all of Magic.
Yeah.
Read the 2019.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know anything about Nicol Bolas? Hey, let me explain it in the best way humanly possible.
Tied to the core set.
Yeah, fucking incredible. So yeah, there are a lot of spinning plates right now, and my concern is that the plates are maybe potentially in different rooms, and in my brain they're in different rooms, and I can't find the story justification that brings them all back into the same room. So there's a lot that the Dragonstorm arc has to do, because it's still, again, the Omen Path arc didn't have a finale. In my mind, the Omen Path arc is still happening.
Well, the Omen Path arc was more like a doorway to Coin Empire. Hey, it was Coin Empire, Dragonstorm.
Fuck the Coin Empire. I forget about the
Coin Empire. What's going to happen is that Dragonstorm will get resolved.
Yeah,
and they'll go, Loot, you saved the day. And then suddenly he'll turn around and he's hit puberty and he's Ruhan.
That was always the plan.
Yeah.
I needed to get rid of the dragons before I could take over with the goats.
Yeah, and then the fucking two giant goats teleport in like Star Trek. Yeah.
Like light beams come down. It's like, welcome my real family. And then we're in space and there's this armada.
And then we're in Edge of Eternity.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Yeah.
Did I tell you I've started working on the WotC narrative team? I don't know if I mentioned that to you.
Yeah. So again, so coming back, so all of that fluff epilogue away, having a race backdrop that I thought was going to be really naff, and I've not mentioned it once yet, but it's really difficult to write race action. It's difficult to write action in general. Fighting action. The whole thing with fucking Gideon swinging his Cyril around for the 84th time in a fucking paragraph. That translated to me in the race that there were so many times that my eyes glazed. I'm like, cool, I get it. Racing is happening.
It's hard.
They're all trying to drive and they're all trying to kill each other-ish, and it's cool. And there are things and there are little moments like the spinning of the chainsaws and stuff like that are very cool. I don't detract from that. The fact that you could smell brine when you were next to the kill holders, all of those details, really cool. The fact that it's happening in a race, couldn't give a shit. And the ending of the race, yes, very cool with the Amonkhet winning, but realistically it was almost like it doesn't really matter who wins. We kind of gave it to the people who deserved it the most, not the people who raced the hardest.
It's tough, isn't it? Because there is so much media about racing, and unless it's like a sprint where it's like, this is 30 seconds of time, like... I didn't think I was going to name drop this series, but I guess it is perfect. The Fast and the Furious films.
Fuck, yeah, absolutely. It's all about family.
They tell stories in quarter laps at a time.
Yeah.
That's actually, I think that's a fucking line from the first film. I live my life a quarter mile at a time. Because they're able to tell a story that has a start and an end, and they know who the winner is. The Fast and the Furious films wouldn't be quite as punchy if it was like, okay, well today we're going to race from here to here, and then tomorrow we'll try again. Yeah, it's just tough. But then how do you tell a long form story?
Yeah, it's really tough. And again, it's replacing battle. And this is the thing, like Magic is a game of battling. You know, it's called the battlefield. It's all about fighting each other, and it's difficult because you're trying to write something that's all about characters and their motivations and their development and their interactions, which is very interesting for Vorthoses, because we don't want. We play the game, like we don't care about the 3-3-2 one. What we care about is like, who are these people? What can I get? What can my headcanon explore? How can I learn more about you? And the race is just the setup to be. This is the thing that brings all of these things together, and now you get to see them interact with each other, not just from a big character point of view, but also from an individual. Yeah, this can be direct. I'm sorry, but also from an interplanar point of view, right? Just it's annoying that, say for example, there wasn't a moment of the robots and the insects looking at each other going, "You're a living thing?
What the fuck are you?"
Yeah, like, how is this a thing? Like, it's funny that, again, I complained that the insects aren't mounts. It would have been nice to have the Alacrians turn around and be like, "So you call those cars? Because these are our friends."
Yeah.
You know? It's like, no, it's not a car, it's my dad.
Well, funnily enough, you say that. There is a line, not to actually you, but
I like
actually,
actually, so that's fine.
there is a bit where the fucking commentator, talks to the Alacrian captain and goes, "So tell us about your ride."
Yeah, the
And
ride's
they go,
right there.
Well, my ride is my co-captain. You fucking arsehole.
Yeah, why don't you ask him yourself?
Yeah,
and then his
yeah,
beak
yeah, yeah.
and eye just comes in and it's like, please don't eat me. Like, he literally says to the mount, please don't eat me, or something similar, which is great.
So, we have to pick a side as a podcast.
Yeah. Trope or no trope.
Exactly. You and I are split on unsets, and I think we're slightly split on Universes Beyond.
I think unsets for me, I guess the annoying thing for unsets is that I grew up I grew up magically, just as unhinged. Yeah, I missed Unglued. I was literally, so I used to buy just a random pack of Unhinged alongside whatever other Magic purchases I was doing, and for me, that style of tongue-in-cheek self-awareness Magic was super, super cool. And then it became a meme.
Yeah.
And as much as I liked the idea of Unstable, I do think it went a bit too far. No, Unstable was still fine for me because it was still within the.
Unstable was the best attempt at an unset.
Yeah, because it was troping, but it was troping effectively, and then it got to Unfinity, and it was like, I wish you'd have just done a space. We're going to see a space.
Well, we're going to see, yeah.
But I'd have actually rather you've just done an actual straight up space set and accepted the fact that we will do the Jeffersons. We will enjoy that. Comet the Dog, fucking great. So just take out all the things that make it not legal in regular standard sets and just make it a legitimate set. Put a bit more, and it's fine. But I agree that it gets away, and I'm on that line with you, which is why I think we had a similar line with a few of the other sets.
But I guess my question is, because we've enjoyed this particular set, if we open the door to you can have literal cars and engines and greases and magic, albeit the set symbol is a piece of hot shit, do we then sort of go, well, OTJ and Markov Manor have to kind of come in with Karlov Manor, have to come in through that door as well?
So, at this point, it's like separating the art from the artist. At this point, I separate...
That's so nuanced for this point of the podcast.
But I separate the set from the story, because I can genuinely hate a set but love every... And this is why I made a point of saying that the Outlaws of Thunder Junction and Murders of Karlov Manor... Yeah, I thought I got it wrong. Those two sets had good stories that I enjoyed, regardless of whether or not I enjoyed the sets. And on reflection, Murders, I have a bit more fondness than I did when it was going. It's always one of these. As I'm going through it, am I disappointed with what I've got? Maybe, but then I'm like, cool, this is what I've got. And then over time, I'm like, I accept it, and I come to enjoy parts of it. There might be things I go, I'd rather have not had this, but if I'm going to have it, I will find my ways to enjoy it. And the good thing is, in each of those instances, the story has had a very high quality that I've been able to invest and enjoy, and that I've been like, I'm glad the set was made so I could get this story.
Yeah.
The cards themselves, I could have stopped playing in the 2000s and still been like, cool, I've got all of these cards that I can play with.
Magic Origins was that was
but
fun.
you know what I mean? Like, I don't need the set to be good for me to enjoy the game, and I absolutely don't need the set to be good to enjoy the story, because it is so far removed. And yes, you nail on the head.
Yeah.
The set symbol. The set symbol has nothing to do with... There was no flag! There was no flag!
It's true.
So why is the set symbol a flag apart from our human earth mines? No, that's the final part of the... That wasn't even the ending crossing line.
It's
not even in the set. So why is it on your...
It could have been the Ether Spark.
You know, and it's that kind of thing that I'm like, look, I just got to remove the two things, because there are things within the set that I'm going to enjoy. There are cards that I'm going to buy. There are interactions that I'm going to play. And there's things that I'm going to be like, I'm really glad I could buy this card and put it in my deck. But the set as a whole is going to, there's a reason why we're not checking, we're doing well, we'll get to it, but there's an exclamation mark on one of the fucking mechanics again.
Oh, yeah.
That's the kind of thing I don't like. And it's when the trope starts bleeding into the story that it becomes a problem. And for the most part, it hasn't. And the sets if the sets need to sell and be tropes to sell, make them as tropey as you fucking want. Just give me a good story and I will be happy.
I agree. Housekeeping.
Yes.
So, at the start of this episode, I said that this might be the only real visit to Avishkar and Aetherdrift that we do. For those of you that have been with the podcast for a long time, this is now our 5th year of doing this podcast.
Crazy.
It's kind of crazy, right? And I think we're just going to change things up a bit. So, obviously, if you've been listening to any podcast for any amount of time, say pre, during, and post-COVID, I think we're all very used to now.
Isn't that all time? Pre, during, and post?
Yes.
Oh, you mean for us?
Well, let's say what the tropes would have been before COVID.
Sure.
what things evolved into during COVID and post-COVID, the kind of landscape we live in now, in terms of content, the style of content, how people engage, whatever. And I think
you have to put a thumbnail on things, for example.
I
stuff
think
like that.
It was very clear that when we only existed for a few months before COVID happened, and then when COVID happened, we were able to do 4 episodes a month because we were doing 1 a week because we didn't have anything else to do with our lives because we were in COVID.
Well, we could also record them in chunks, right? There was enough stuff to get through initially. We could do like 4 or 5 episodes within a week and then space that out.
And within those episodes, we would do things like, we did like the Multiverse menu. We would do like Ikoria was a good example. We focused on the humans and the monsters, and then we did a story episode, and we would split it all out. And
we're not looking at the set; we were looking at what the set represented.
And then when we opened back up to the world, and over the past few years, when we went back to our jobs, I think our output has been maybe a little bit staggered, and like sometimes life takes over and jobs take over, and that will continue to be true. But the rhythm that we've fallen into, that we've kind of been doing for the past maybe 1.5 to 2 years, is that we'll do a story episode and then we'll do a Flavor Picks episode, because we felt, and justifiably, that covered our very heavy lore-dense Vorthos minds, and then covered the areas of the podcast, which is why we started the podcast with the Flavor Picks. The Vorthos cast also do their own Flavor Picks episodes, where we were like, we wanted to translate what the cards meant. Why is a goblin a goblin? Yeah. Why is green green?
Yeah.
And I think you and I had a production meeting that was really just a drinking session.
Well, we were eating... No, the production meeting happened over food, okay? We eventually got to food. There were several drinks before it, but we got to food.
There were 3 different bars before it.
Yeah.
They know this. I've made this public knowledge now. You're not on Bluesky at the moment. And I think we basically landed on the idea that actually the story episodes are really good for us, because not only is it a niche that we hold, a lot of places... I mean, other podcasts, do... story reviews, but I think we feel we do it in a voice that is very much our own.
I'm more passionately committed to the story than I am to the cards.
Whereas the Flavor Picks episodes, I think actually in a positive way, not to frame it negatively, in a positive way, the Magic community has become so attuned to the lovely nuance and why is a goblin a goblin? What reference is this? The flavor text says that. Like the flavor text I referenced for like the Fly God, the Wasp God.
Yeah. Which is in the Commander set, by the way, not in the main set.
That was presented to me via the community. I didn't seek that out.
Oh, really?
So now we're at a place where the voice which we were like, we wanted this elevated in the Magic community.
That now exists.
It exists.
Yeah.
I think, I'm not to be too big-headed, I think in no small part to us and other podcasts and content creators like us, but I think naturally it's become more part of the game. Yeah. The more diverse the player base becomes, the less kind of sweaty and tournament-based it becomes, so people want to engage with the story.
It's funny, do you reckon that because WotC keeps doing these tropey sets, the people that didn't realise it were Vorthosians are actually starting to be like, oh shit, I don't like this and I need to figure out why, and it makes them dig into these kinds of subjects.
But I think that's exactly the reason. Like, Magic's tapping into different stories and it's bringing people in who like the story. It's what they wanted and it's working and it's Vorthosy. We love it. But what that does mean is that we can maybe free ourselves from the box that we've created of going, we need to hit this and we need to hit this. So this is a very long-winded way to say, and I'll do a post on socials that's like a maybe more formatted version of this. We're keeping the story episodes. For every round of Magic story that comes out, we will do a story review. The other half of what we're doing, and we'll try to stick to 2 episodes a month, maybe just under, we'll maybe sort of do it every, 2.5 to 3 weeks. We will do an episode that's more in line with what we used to do, where it's kind of like flavour from around Magic.
Off the top of my head, next year's Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Avishkar, question mark, and question mark.
Yeah.
What would the next 2 planes be for the next year?
Yeah. Another idea we had for this set was us just looking at vehicles across the history of Magic.
Yes, exactly.
Whatever it is. And then when we go to...
nowadays, that's actually quite a broad thing.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And then when we go to Tarkir, we might do the story episodes of Tarkir, and then just off the top of my head, as we're talking now, we might look at the dragons across the multiverse.
Makes sense, right?
Or we might revisit some of the old stories of Tarkir.
Or do we go, hey, here are the... without knowing what is going to happen on Tarkir, here are the 5 broods or 5 clans versus the 5 broods, 5... Because we've actually technically seen 2 sides of the plane.
Yeah.
Right? We've seen the human side, we've seen the dragon side. We don't know what we're going into now, but we can do that as a comparison between the 2.
Suffice to say, we're...
Flavor picks get in the bin.
Flavor picks getting in the bin. Other podcasts do them, maybe more formatted than we ever did. And also the idea is that the community is more attuned to it anyway. So now we're freeing ourselves up. We'd love to hear the kinds of episodes you want us to do again. Someone suggested that we do a second course menu, so we do another revisited menu episode.
We've now hit... now Magic has... It's weird. Now Magic as a whole is modernised, There's way more things that we can talk
Food
about.
as a mechanic is just more of a thing
How
anyway.
many more different food tokens have there been since we did that episode? That's a conversation to
I mean,
have.
fucking New Capenna alone has a whole drinks menu. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So, we're going to be doing more of that. Socials have also changed ever so slightly. Again, we'll put it out properly. We have had fan mail come through our Buzzsprout, which is our podcast host provider. They don't allow us to reply, so sorry. Several people have asked whether on Bluesky rather than Twitter. We are now on Bluesky. You can hit us up, MT Flavouring, OUR in the flavouring. We are now on Bluesky, and actually, as the person, so I do most of that side of the socials. Nathan usually lives on Reddit. It's just true.
So true.
Well, I don't go on Reddit very often. Officially, I'm saying this now, we'll still do episode updates and podcast life updates on Twitter. However, the conversation will be on Bluesky.
Yeah.
It's not because... I mean, it's a little bit because the state of Twitter is awful, but if I'm being very honest...
X is being run by an absolute Nazi right now.
Well,
so.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
Bluesky, unfortunately, and actually I railed against it for a long time, is just a calmer atmosphere. So that's where we live.
Yeah, and I think... I like the idea, and we spoke about this in short, and we'll probably talk about it at a greater length, but the idea of doing YouTube shorts for flavour picks,
Yep.
I hate the fact that instead of watching... I have two ways of engaging with YouTube. I do engage with other things other than Reddit. And they're either hour and a half long video fucking deep dives on things like, Control and Adam Wake or fucking Arcane, whatever it is. But I like to go either really deep on an hour and a half, or I scroll through fucking shorts, I keep a little dirt under my pillow for the dirt man. I don't know about you, but I do, in case he comes to town.
I do like a little bit of shorts.
Right, and the thing is, so what we, to not be funny anymore, we can make the flavour picks not one episode that's an hour and a half of us going through, here's our top 5 and honourable mentions, and better get this in and better talk about that thing. We can just do little things.
We can do 1 minute.
Exactly, about a specific, kind of similar to what our the old videos that Andy used to do on our main YouTube channel, of where you just do a little deep dive. Here's a little bit of information you might not have known about a thing that's very present right now, because that's essentially what we're good at. And I don't have to feel like, I have to justify why I don't like Survivor. I don't have to feel like, we're reiterating. It's when sets got really boring for us mechanically. No offense to what, you've been making the game for 30 years, but when things like collect evidence and stuff just keeps giving us the same... If we can ignore that side and only focus on the good things and put those into shorts, that's way more positive, and then we have space for our other episodes to do things that are slightly more interesting. We've been talking about it for the whole year. Eventually we're going to do the best mechanic in the game episode.
Yeah.
We can't do that
if we're doing flavour picks.
If our life dictates that we only have time to do a story and a flavour pick and then the supplementary set episode. That's just... The speed and pace, 6 standard sets this year, it's just too much. Because I think we worked it out of, if that is how it is and we do one for each, that only leaves us 4 or 5 episodes in a year free to do any other thing. So, as much as it's a shake-up to the formula, also feel free to shout. If you say, hey, we like your flavour picks better than anyone else's, we will bring it back if you say that, and we'll use that, and be like, hey guys, look how popular we are, and it will really strike our ego. But the reality is that
we want to do something.
We don't want to box tick, and the thing that was fun for us was to be able to take our knowledge, our combined knowledge of the game, and not just do it to be a review channel. It's to actually investigate flavour and try and divulge into it a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So coming back to that, getting back to the roots, as it were, seems like a good mission objective for 2025. And if it fucks up and blows up in our face, hey, we can always go back to clickbait. It's fine.
So yes, flavour episodes are going bye-bye. YouTube is going to become a bit more active. We still need to kind of nail that down, and that'll be that'll be an ongoing process. All of our episodes are now also available on YouTube, both YouTube Music and YouTube Proper. You can find our email still at MT Flavouring. You can do the fan mail, which the link will be in the bio for this episode. My personal Bluesky is... Oh, God, you know what? I actually have to look at it.
That's kind of funny.
Because I'm not sure it's just fully Andy Manface. Let me have a little... Oh, no! I don't have a Bluesky.
I was literally about to say, do you not have a personal Bluesky? Because I don't have a personal Bluesky.
The Bluesky for the channel is at MT Flavouring at bsky.social. Our X accounts are at Andy Manface. Nathan's, yours is.
At the Fox in the Moon.
MT Flavouring as well. I'm going to have to rewrite this end show.
Yeah.
We've spoken enough.
Yeah. Go away.
Enjoy your lives.
Yeah, have fun. I'm excited. It's a new year. It's going to be a lot of fun. Bluesky.com does not lead you to Bluesky. It leads you to a shopping store. Good.
B-Sky.
Is it B-Sky? Wonderful. All right, this time, next episode, I will have another fox in a different mood. Not with Emerald.
Thank you very much for listening. This has been Magic Flavouring.
We'll see you soon.